Hello, and welcome to Now You're in Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you, folks. We are going to be, of course, finishing the rest of our War of the Spark-a-Palooza.
Sorry, I gave you a little pause there.
That's good.
It's not that I forgot.
No, I understand.
No, I was building dramatic tension.
Of course. Before we jump into that, do want to give a quick shout out to our lovely and fantastic patrons. We, of course, do have a Patreon. And you can join that Patreon by going to patreon.com/atyourendstep. We are going to be doing Mike's Book Nook. Hopefully have something up potentially next week.
Yeah, I finished the book and waiting for Morgan to...
Well, we're only going to talk about Act 1, so I finished Act 1
Okay, well,
so
then
far.
hopefully we'll find some time to record that then this week and
get that up to our patrons. That's going to be available to everyone at any level. Of course, you've probably seen on our Twitter, we've been actually getting some products, and we've been starting to do some sort of micro reviews, which I think is a good format for us in particular. They're really easy to kind of get out there and make sure everyone sees them, and I think that's where a lot of our listeners choose to engage with us. So keep an eye out for those.
Also, because we both have sort of deleted Facebook-ish, so
yeah,
it's harder to engage with us there.
Yeah, Facebook's just you read the news, man. Facebook's just rough. You know what? And Twitter's not really any better. I'm not going to say that it is. But we're in this to talk to the people, so we gotta have something.
I can't wait to do our micro review of Micro Machines.
Yeah, it'll be very fast. I don't know if we can match the speed of the Micro Machines man, but we might try.
They still make Micro Machines?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. They have to. I don't see why they would stop.
Wait, I like how you say with conviction, but you actually have no idea.
I mean, did little kids stop liking little cars? I don't think so.
I was like that idea though. Like, no, of course they still do. There's no way that anything made during my childhood could no longer exist.
But it's just that's sort of like one of those evergreen things, right?
I don't know.
It just feels like the car is such a quintessential toy. So, I mean, maybe they don't. I know Hot Wheels are still a thing, obviously.
They were available for they were died in 2008.
Okay.
Were brought back for a year. They haven't been made since 2016, bud.
Wow.
No Micro Machines.
Rough. Maybe it's just they're just too much of a choking hazard, Well, I didn't know. Well, now we've educated you on the viability and longevity of Micro Machines. You're welcome.
Welcome to our Micro Machines podcast. All of our episodes are 2 minutes, 2 minutes long.
Everyone, you'd be listening to that. People are like, why are you listening to that at 2x speed? They're like, oh no, this is just how they talk.
This is Micro Machines, man.
That would be very impressive, but impossible to comprehend. I'm pretty sure.
Somebody hearing this was just literally thought, I wonder if there are Micro Machines podcasts, and that's what they are currently doing. Yep, they are searching for those.
Sorry you didn't get to listen to the rest of our episode. We inspired you to look.
But you're welcome, Micro Machines podcast enthusiasts.
With talking about our Patreon, talking about the products that we've had an opportunity to do some reviews for, we are going to be obviously giving some of these products away to our Patreon subscribers. So if you want to get ahead of the curve before that comes down the pipeline, definitely go to patreon.com/atyourendstep and sign up. And again, thank you so much for all of our current patrons. We appreciate it. We couldn't do the show without you. And going from that, let's talk just a little bit about the Pro Tour or the Mythic Championship. So we had the MC, and obviously there's a lot of stuff that happened. We want to talk about everything. We want to talk about how the London Mulligan rule kind of looked, on screen, what the impacts of it were, what the archetypes were, what decks were. We want to talk about the Yuya Watanabe situation. But we are going to hold off on that. We do know that it is a thing and it exists, and we will be covering it along with the rest of the news on next week's episode. So expect that one to have a lot of community subjects, as well as a sort of a breakdown of both the MC as well as Richmond, which is going to be pioneer standard as a new term that I heard recently.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple of times, and it makes me laugh pretty hard. It's like, we gotta go digging them hills. The new decks in them hills.
Panning for decks. So we'll definitely be talking about that next week. But this week is still going to be all Palooza all the time. So let's just get into that right now. We left off in multicolor, and there obviously is a lot of multicolor cards.
Yeah, you may be thinking, wait, that's a weird break. You did all the monocolored stuff. There's so many multicolored cards.
There are a ton, and you know, we now have the weird like insight into what the metagame kind of looks like right now, because it's available on Magic Online, it's available on Magic Arena. It's still new, it's still early, but you can kind of see some cards, you know, pulling away from the rest of the pack a little bit.
You certainly can. Metagame, I think, is tough because Arena,
yeah,
you know, especially with the ladder system. Ladders, like they tier away people. You know what I mean? So you could literally, like, depending on where you're at in the ladder ranking, certain decks may be more popular anyways. But we definitely have seen cards, and I've played a fair amount of New Standard already, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, we have seen some of these in play. You ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right, we'll start here with Ajani the Great-Hearted. This is 2 generic green and a white for a legendary planeswalker, Ajani. Ajani starts with 5 loyalty and has a static ability that says creatures you control have vigilance. It has a +1 ability that says you gain 3 life, and a -2 that says put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. So Ajani has a lot of loyalty.
Yeah.
And has a fine static ability, good in races for sure. Mm-hmm. Tick up is not exactly exciting.
No, and I always feel bad for poor little Ajani. Like his tick ups have been so often like gaining some amount of life or something like that. It's just like, stop making him do that. Like it's not worth it.
But here's the thing: it's flavorful because he makes other people live longer.
I get it.
Specifically, you.
Yeah, he's a healing, you know, mage of some persuasion. Like I get it.
He's not though. He wields that blade like he's, I don't know, Darth Maul. So The real game here is going to be the -2 and how your green-white deck uses the -2.
Yes.
The current decks we have in Standard there are green-based token decks. Honestly, Ajani to me does seem to slot in a lot of places. You know, if you're already into play Saproling Migration, then you're pretty happy to get a -2 and make those. You know, using Ajani kind of like a what was the Nissa from Oath of the Gatewatch?
I know what you're talking about, but yeah, the 3-mana one.
Yeah, it made a plant and then tick down and put counters on
it.
The loyalty counter thing always, like, this is the second time we've seen Ajani do this, put loyalty counters on the planeswalkers. Your mileage is going to vary there. Yes, there certainly could be a Super Friends deck in the format, and if so, Ajani could be good. But Ajani, like, is a tick down to put more counters on your other planeswalkers good enough for it to matter, especially when half of your planeswalkers don't really have an ultimate.
Yeah, or
the extra loyalty may or may not matter.
You know, and you know, speaking of limited, because I've had this, you know, already had this experience, but like just having the other uncommon planeswalkers, you know, that goes a long way when you're powering up, you know, some of the other ones that don't tick up at all.
This is true.
Obviously, not as far reaching implications for constructed.
I think the real key for this one is going to be how many of the proliferate cards are deemed playable and can see play.
Yeah.
We talked in green. We talked about the uncommon that whenever you play a land, you get to proliferate. This was Evolution Sage.
Yeah.
So like if your curve is like Evolution Sage and then like Ajani, then you can get into shenanigans where you tick down, put a counter on everything. You know, then you play a land the next turn, and your guys are swinging for a lot.
Yeah.
So if any of the proliferate cards are good enough to see play, then Ajani definitely is appealing. And of course, like even though it costs 4, you're in the colors that are playing Llanowar Elves or you know Paradise Druid even maybe. So maybe that's where it goes. Right now, I think the card is solid. I think as a card in general, it does a lot of work against like red decks. You know, just by making your blocks better, like you can race them, and you know the tick up to gain life.
Now is relevant. Like
it's relevant, and like it's technically depending on how much they view Ajani, like it's probably tick up gain at least 4 life. Because they're going to have to deal with Ajani to finish you off. So in a really heavy red meta game, I'm probably really happy to have this card in my deck. But this is the kind of card where the second my opponent is playing, you know, Absorb and Teferi, I don't think Ajani's going to do it for you. So maybe it's a sideboard card. The power level's there if you have the board state. But the issue with cards like that always to me is if the board state's already good enough where this is good, how good is it?
Right.
So I hope Ajani sees play. It feels really, really close. but we'll see.
The one thing that I dislike about this art is the perspective of it is weird.
Yeah, him holding the skull in his hand looks awkward, right?
It looks like he's holding a little tiny Eternal. And then, like, I couldn't... Like,
he is bigger than them.
There's depth to like this image. So he's ripped off the head of the Eternal and the body has yet to fall down, but there's not enough, like... It still looks like it's kind of attached. It's just weird, and it always makes me look like he's tiny, little Eternal person.
I understand what they've done with Johnny, and they've made him into this mentor, like quite literally a mentor of heroes type character. That was one of his Planeswalker names. But he fights a lot, and like this image is so aggressive of him full charge, literally ripping the head off of something, and it's like tick up, gain 3 life, and you're like, this art doesn't match what this Planeswalker's doing. Like this is a Johnny who's going to like eat you, and all right,
oh, okay.
He's just doing the old mama had a baby and popped off like the dandelion thing, just like oh there it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. The art and the actual abilities of the card kind of just like okay.
And the art looks. I mean, again, it looks good, but
it's good art. It just doesn't quite scream to me like, oh yeah, he definitely will heal you. he definitely won't murder. The big cat man definitely won't murder you.
He trades heals for pets. Go ahead, touch him.
I dare you.
Get close enough.
All right, so next up we have Angras Rampage, which is black and red for a sorcery. And it says, choose one. Target player sacrifices an artifact. Target player sacrifices a creature, or target player sacrifices a planeswalker. So this card is pretty good. It gives something like just a red-black deck or like a Grixis color deck a option to destroy an artifact, but not have a dead card, within their library. And the sheer fact that you can kind of choose where this goes is fairly important. You're not gonna. Maybe they have too many creatures to really get what you want, but maybe you're able to hit, a key planeswalker that they have, or even something like a Sorcerer's Spyglass that they've boarded in against you, or something like that.
Yeah, that's all very good. This is a card I've gotten to play a fair amount with, and just the way that it's worded gives it so much true versatility because, well, okay, they have a bunch of creatures, but they have this, and like just in playing it, I've already like made people sacrifice treasure maps, Teferis. I got a the Nullhide Ferox off of it. Like,
yeah,
these are pretty powerful things, and for 2 mana, the investment is pretty solid. And you may have to do some work to kill the best creature with it, but I think that versatility just can't be talked enough about. And a lot of the planeswalkers, especially the newer ones, with the exception of Liliana, Saheeli, aren't making tokens. You know what I mean? The ones from this set. So you really have a chance to get some of the ones, especially the ones that go up to high loyalty. Like, this hitting Ral feels great. This hitting Sorin feels great because they come in, they're at 6 loyalty. You're like, well, they're going to be here a long time. Or my 2 mana investment says you're out. So
yeah,
I've been really happy with this card.
And, not having to, typically we see this effect. It's like we think of the Eldest Reborn, where they get a choice of what they want to sacrifice. But this card being able to really get what you want off the board a lot of the time in that facet, like between like getting the creature off the board versus the planeswalker is just helpful. And it's more than you think on paper. So
yeah, I agree with that too. So I think it's because he play Modern as well. I think like any black red deck that if you need a Boggles option that has a little more versatility, this is here. So I think this is all around solid card.
Yeah, I like it.
As we scroll through, I do want to make mention a card not on our list is Bioessence Hydra. I know that card's gotten a little bit of buzz because Saffron Olive was brewing with it pretty much. Yes, you can do some crazy things because of the way its counters work. But again, like the board states he was winning with, he had 5 or 6 resolved planeswalkers. So I don't know if you needed the Hydra to get there, but maybe I'm wrong. So I still think that card is pretty average, but you can do some work with it. Next card, though, is probably also pretty average, but I at least want to talk about it, which is Casualties of War. 2 generic black, green, green for a sorcery. Choose 1 or more. Destroy target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, target land, target planeswalker. This card does a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that we have seen them be more aggressive with putting like destroy target land, just like not on the like demolish of the set, but we're actually seeing it in not just red. You know, we've had Field of Ruin, Assassin's Trophy. Like we've seen this kind of push a little bit more than we're used to, in all honesty. And obviously this is a very expensive card, so it's not shocking to see it on there. But
I think it's just the nature of what they've done with lands too. Like there's some great utility lands in this set, and with the flip cards, you know, in this giant standard format, we're almost as big as it's going to be, right? Because core set will make it the biggest it'll be before rotation. But I mean, yeah, you need to have some options for those lands. Now at 6 mana, this is tough, but it's not bad. For me, like this says like mid range Mirror Breaker, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is your Soul Time matchup where it's okay. I need to hit your biggest guy. I need to hit your Vivian. I'm going to hit your Memorial. I'm going to do all these things at once.
Right, and like, you know, being able to hit, you know, their creatures and the Memorial. You know, hopefully if they just have, you know, one out, that makes a big difference, because they're not going to be able just to, you know, rebuy it. And obviously this gets a lot of stuff, and it feels like there's not a lot of time where, if you are boarding this in, that it's a, you know, a truly dead card. You know what I mean? It's expensive, but again, you're playing green, so hopefully, you know, this could be something that you can accelerate out and, you know, really be able to decimate a board while not having to play like a true sweeper.
Right. Yeah. I don't think if it sees play, it's going to see a lot of play. It's not going to. You're not going to build a deck around Casualties of War, but it's the kind of card that you can stick at a sideboard in mid-range matches. Just get you, you know, a clean 3 or maybe 4 for 1 that is pretty gross.
This is a sweet brawl card.
Oh yeah.
It's especially if you're playing like a multiplayer game. Woo.
I don't know who does that, but
I mean, people do.
It's in Izoni now, so
yeah. I mean, I'm probably gonna. I gotta fix up Muldrotha, but it'll probably go in there. I don't know. It's hard because you want permanence in Muldrotha. Yeah. You don't really want spells.
In Izoni too. It's in the sideboard, but man, this card's gonna be sweet.
Oh, I guess sideboard. Sideboard makes sense.
I can't. I want to cast this against, because I also have Dovin. Cast against Dovin, you can hit all the modes.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great. Next one I know is one that you like a lot, though.
Is it Cruel Celebrant?
Oh, it is.
So yeah, Cruel Celebrant. It's a white and a black for a 1/2 creature vampire. And it says, whenever Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it's a Blood Artist. And, you know, this is...
It's almost. It's more Azul Port Cutthroat.
Sure. Yeah, the fixed Blood Artist, as it were.
Yeah, only your creatures.
Because you have to control it. So, obviously... Blood Artist is kind of bonkers.
Yeah, card was disgusting.
And you know, pushing that into it being playable is a little much for standard in a lot of different ways. But this is sort of a last last piece to potentially make a Aristocrats style deck, which is a popular, you know, relatively like new archetype realistically, as we look at like the entire lifespan of Magic, but it's been a very popular sort of archetype since it existed in sort of original Ravnica was I think the last time that we saw it when we had Innistrad. And I guess there was a style of it with Battle for Zendikar because we had the Cutthroat, and then we had
you had black green or in junk.
So this is something that people will try to pursue. They have already been trying to pursue it before this came out, and this just kind of pushes it to a potentiality. I'm not going to say the deck exists now. It's a deck that requires a lot of moving pieces and is all it's primarily synergy based, and you kind of sometimes it just doesn't come together.
You're not wrong. I will say the allure of 1-drop into Judith is exciting, and so in the case that happens, your 1-drop, so a Gutter Bones maybe, so it's like attack for 2, and then you get to attack for 6, and then even if their turn 4 is Kaya's Wrath, then they're also going to take 6, right? So that's appealing, and I think like that that Judith and this is your basis is probably got you excited. Yeah.
So. This is the kind of deck that needs that really wants something like a mana confluence, though, to make your mana better.
This is true.
I think that's where I think it really needs to be Mardu. to get everything.
It does. Well, I mean, I literally, this into Judith is Mardu. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, people have been trying to like see if you could just stay like white black and try something. But I think
Soren's a good pull to that as well.
Yeah, but I think you still play Soren in something like the Mardu deck.
Probably.
And it's something where I think the pieces are. I think you're missing probably like one piece, and you can build a deck, but I don't think it's going to be as consistent as some of the other options you do have out there. So it's going to still probably be ranked just like a step below tier 1.
Yeah, I think the other issue is Cry the Carnarium.
Yeah, the card's real good against you.
So it is a problem. But, people will try and build it, and it's sweet. Moving on, quick shout out to Death Sprout for having amazing art because Seth McKinnon just like knocking it out of the park.
And it just being like 2 effects stapled together that haven't existed yet in the lifetime of Magic, which is pretty hilarious.
I with Vraska's Contempt, I don't know how many 4 CMC destroy creatures you can have, but if the deck wants to ramp, this is here.
Yeah.
Our next card, though, is D-Spark, which is a black and a white for an instant. Exile target permanent with converted mana cost 4 or greater. And this is sweet for a couple reasons. One, it's a story moment where Bolas loses his sparks. And I say sparks because it's like the Elder Spell, like it's all the sparks. This is, I think, a really powerful sideboard card. I don't know that you can main deck this card, but
no, I don't think it's going to be consistently effective. You're going to like have it in your hand and be looking at like everything like CMC 3 and below and be like, cool.
But having too many answers to planeswalkers are the main things that come to mind. But larger creatures are really good.
I mean, a lot of the like enchantments that exile your things are for CMC.
That is also true. It also, weirdly enough, can hit a land every now and then. Was pointed out. So what's the?
I think it's Primal Amulet.
Primal Amulet. If it flips, you can destroy that with it, which is cool. But this, I think, the biggest thing for me is that this currently hits Reclamation.
Yeah,
and I think like if you looked, you mentioned cards getting into that deck. There have been a lot of War of the Spark cards that are making appearances in those decks, depending on what. If it's just Simic, then it's been Tameo, which has been very good. If it's the Teamer version, then it's been like Ral with the Ral combo. And the fact that you can bring a 2-mana instant speed removal spell that can hit Reclamation and any of their planeswalkers, and if it's Niv Mizzet, is there whatever, like being able to do that. And great.
Specifically being able to exile it.
Yes,
because if you're looking at Simic, you're looking at Tameo, like that, like it's a speed bump if it gets destroyed, but you're probably going to be able to, potentially buy it back so you have a spare one later on, or if you're hitting a reclamation with it, buy that back if it's just destroyed. But exiling it really, really does affect what they can do.
Even something as minor as how important Search for Azcanta is in those decks. Like, if your removal spell is exiled, then you're all, because one of the frustrating things with that deck is you can destroy the reclamation, but sometimes you just put them closer to flipping their search.
Yeah, so and this you're not going to have that feel bad moment.
And again, that's minor, but I think there's a lot of places where this card shines. But reclamation decks are, I think, where this card really has a chance to put in some heavy lifting work.
Yeah, if you don't have access to Narset out of blue, because if you really want to present something that derails the like Simic versions of the reclamation decks, it's Narset.
Yeah,
if they can't draw extra cards, like
that's true too.
Yeah, they're gonna have a bad time.
But yeah, it's a good card.
Yeah, good sideboard card. So, is it me or you?
Oh, it's you.
I just want to make sure. I don't want to have a. No, I don't want to have a. I don't want to step on any toes anymore. I'm trying to be.
Nobody wants to lose any more big toes here. Because that is tender.
So, next up we have Domri, Anarch of Bolas. Rest in peace, Domri. It's just a moment of silence. 1 green red sweet for a legendary planeswalker. Domri has 3 loyalty. The stack ability is creatures you control get +1/+0. It has a +1. Add red or green. Creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. And a -2. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So this card is pretty good.
I said this before. We talked about it once, but I think this is better than 4-mana Domri in a lot of cases.
It is definitely. It feels more like what Red Green wants to do in this format.
I agree with that. And like the decks that we're trying to figure out how to jam all of their creatures into the deck, or into the deck that also wants Rhythm of the Wild. I think the decision gets easier here. Because I probably just want this over Rhythm of the Wild. I'll just take you don't get the haste, but you also the encounterability is nice. The pump is nice. So I think this is a very solid card, and I expect it to. This and Gruul Spellbreaker are going to be best friends for the entirety of their legal. So
right, I agree.
And
with
Land of Elves. Don't get me wrong, because turn 2 Domri is going to feel real nice.
Yeah, I mean that always felt nice when we had another 3-mana Domri, in the form of previously. Like
and it's got the same -2, so you got those feels.
Right. You don't get the card advantage, which
don't worry. I played Domri enough to know you never did.
You just looked at that land on top of your library and go, okay, fair enough.
And you look at it, you go, can I make a convincing enough face and make them ignore the grimace I had to convince them this is a bonfire that they have?
But it did feel great when you got to just do the whole thing.
I'll reveal Master of the Fells. Oh yeah.
It just is the best.
I want to go back.
Oh please take us back to Innistrad Return to Ravnica Standard. Woo.
For so many reasons. Oh man. Next up is Dovin's Veto. So white and a blue for an instant. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. So negate went out, did some sweet deadlifts, got some gains, came back. This card is already just seeing play everywhere. Anywhere there were negates that was essentially not mono blue, these are becoming the norm. And having some play with them, it's really nice because you can sort of set it up so that what you want to happen will happen. Yeah, which is pretty cool. I think this card, especially when you're talking about blue black X decks, may make discard spells more important, especially out of the board, because you're not going to win the counter wars. Yeah, necessarily. So it's to be on the opposite end of this, where I want this spell to resolve, and I have a counter spell to back it up, and you're like, well, I'm going to Dovin's Veto the original spell, and you're like, okay, I wish this had been Duress first. So I think that may change the nature of that depending on how popular these become, but this card's going to be defining in the format. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment to make. I mean, it's something that if you're playing a blue white X deck of some persuasion, whether Esper continues to be the deck du jour, if that switches over to Jeskai or just straight blue white, those kind of decks are going to want it. Your Esper mid range lists. This is going to be a card that I think they're going to be able to take a lot of advantage of, and it's just. If you can cast it, you're probably playing it. Just like, Absorb. If you can cast Absorb, you're probably playing it. So, but yeah. Next up we have, is it Dreadhorde Butcher? It is.
Dreadhorde Butcher. It's a red and a black for a zombie warrior, and it's a 1/1. It has haste. It says whenever Dreadhorde Butcher deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, put a +1/+1 counter on Dreadhorde Butcher. And it says when Dreadhorde Butcher dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. This card is, obviously reminds a lot of people of the
Slith Firewalker.
Yeah, Slith Firewalker. It's red black. I mean, this is another card that we look at and you go, well, this could probably go in that Mardu deck that we were talking about previously with the Cruel Celebrant, and that's probably the case. This is something that if it gets in, it specifically being able to hit a player planeswalker and get that +1/+1 counter is relevant, and then it gives you a little bit of reach on top of your your Cruel Celebrant and your Judith and what have you. So. It's a 1/1, so it's pretty mopey late game.
Yeah, this card terrifies me because on turn 2, in certain matchups, it's disgusting. Yeah. But yeah, as a late game, it is not exciting. How many Footlight Fiends do you want in your deck, and do you want some of them to cost 2? Right. And maybe you do. I think this has a potential to be very important in very specific decks. Maybe it is Aristocrats, maybe it's just low to the ground aggro, but I know a lot of people are really high on this card. I don't know that I'm seeing it just yet. Granted, it's probably pretty good against the aforementioned Reclamation deck, specifically Simic. Yeah.
I think people were doing a turn 3 kill with this card though too. It involved Thud and yeah.
Turn 3, but it will only be a 2/2. So what is it, pump spells? I assume.
Yes. It's it's Titanic Growth. It's the +4/+4.
Okay, so attack for 1, So 19, attack for 2, then 6. So deal 6. You're at 13. Becomes 7. Thud deals 14. Okay, yeah. That's pretty great.
So you can turn 3 people with this card, I guess, if you're just that powerful of a magician.
You have to play Titanic Growth and Thud in your deck.
You do.
So sweet draft deck, everybody.
But hey, fun times. I think you can do it with you could technically do it with Collision as well. Collision Colossus.
Collision Colossus, or I guess like double sandwich Sprint Thud.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's so many options.
I mean, we got it. We just were playing. It's a 4 or 5 color feather deck. No, again, the card here, the power level is here. The power level is definitely here. I don't know. I don't know what that actually means in context of the format.
I think, like, this is one of those cards. It's also a zombie. It's a relevant creature type. We have, like, zombie things here or there. You never know what's going to be in course of 2020. Maybe towards the tail end of this format, we get, like, a red-black zombie deck that's a really low-to-the-ground slide deck and can still compete somehow with mono red being like the deck du jour of aggressive decks.
Yeah,
so
if I'm playing an aggressive deck, your deck is gonna have to be a lot more like black to convince me not to play like just like Runaway Steamkin as my 2-drop.
Exactly.
But I mean, again, maybe this is the deck that also gets to play the 4/4 demon that we thought was going to see a bunch of play.
Any play at all.
So we'll see.
All right. Well, you get a good card.
I do. Enter the God Eternals. I get the full-on wrestling card here, which is pretty great. 2 generic blue, black for a sorcery. Enter the God Eternals, deals 4 damage to target creature, and you gain life equal to damage dealt this way. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Amass 4. So if you get to this in the mid-range deck versus the aggro deck, this is your knockout punch. I will kill your guy. I will gain 4, and I'll get a 4/4. Your turn, and I enjoy that sweet 3 for 1.
Yeah. I mean, 4 damage.
2.5. I'm counting 4 life as a spell.
I mean, like 4 damage is like a sweet spot for a lot of different things in the format.
Especially when you consider like mono white.
Yeah, and Drakes.
100%.
So like there's definitely like they price this just right. We talked about this card before a little bit. I mean, this card is disgusting at instant speed if you're playing a Teferi.
Yeah, like this is Teferi. Like these two.
No, we haven't technically talked about Teferi yet in the set review, but he allows this card
cool.
to be.
We can talk about him whenever. He controls time.
It's true. This card, obviously he'll be cast at instant speed with him existing and doing his +1. So, this is a card again for that, Esper mid-range list. I don't think an Esper control deck is going to want a lot of these, more than likely.
Good. I mean, your trade-off here is like your 5-drop is Lyra versus this. You immediately gain 4 life off this, but no more afterwards. But some of the blue-black base decks and the Grixis decks are definitely priced in for this card.
Yeah, for sure. This kind of just does everything that you really want out of a card that's going to cost you 5 mana at sorcery speed. So I don't have anything really bad to say about this card.
No, you're going to see this a lot in this format, for sure.
Yeah, and if you're playing limited, just hope your opponents don't open this and play it against you, because it will probably make you sad inside. All right. So next up, we have Feather, the Redeemed. Feather costs 1 red and 2 white. So red, white for 3/4. Legendary creature angel with flying. It says, whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell that targets a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, return to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So Feather, it really wants you to pump your creatures to some degree, and you get to rebuy all those spells, which is fairly powerful. If you are playing a heroic style deck, that you're you really want your pump spells to be able to be always with you. You don't want to have to go all in and get blown out and be like, well, I don't have anything. My attack was decimated, and I don't have any cards to show for it. And Feather lets you get around that. Obviously, you don't get them immediately back because that would be busted in half. But it's something that allows you to continue to gain value. And all the pump spells, I feel like in the format, at least a lot of them, do other things. We have Defiant Strike, we have Summit Sprint. Those are scries, those are cards in hand back again. And this card at a base rate, like a 3/4 for flying for 3 is fine.
I think it's been ignored a bunch. Like, this body is crazy when you think of power creep and Magic. Now, granted, Lava Coil's the number one, removal spell in the format most of the time. But
we just got done talking about Enter the God Eternals.
But still, like, a 3/4 for 3 with flying. Like, granted, red, white, white may not be the easiest. But it's really good. It should also be pointed out is that Reckless Rage is a card that's still in Standard, which is you deal 2 damage to a creature you control and 4 damage to another creature. Conveniently, every creature you want to play in the Heroic deck, whether it be this and the 10th Street Legionnaire or the Dreadhorde Arcanist, all survive that. And then you get it back. So it can really start mowing down opposing creature decks, which is pretty cool. I've seen, there's the spell from Rivals block that for white mana you get indestructible and it's scry 1.
Yeah.
I've seen Gird for Battle, which puts +1/+1 counters on 2 of your creatures.
So, yeah.
That's a good way to get Feather out of Lava Coil range real quick.
It's true.
So it's kind of neat to see the little tricks and like see how that deck sort of functions. And I know like the makings of the Heroic deck are there, but seeing just on Arena, seeing some of the lists that exist, it's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So go Feather.
Again, we're talking about another aggressive deck that, are you going to be able to compete with, mono white, mono red? You are doing something different. Is it better? And it's something you always have to ask yourself when you're looking at this. Am I just playing a worse version of the best deck in the format?
I will say, compared to mono white, mono red, you probably are the better, especially compared to mono white, because mono red can't play it. But like, your access also means you're playing Gideons, and you're probably one of the best Gideon black play decks we've seen so far. Mm-hmm. So that card alone offers you a compelling direction to build from.
Yeah.
So next up is actually Leyline Prowler, but Morgan, I do want to mention, you said that Gleaming Overseer had been seeing some play.
I played against some decks when grinding the last bit to Mythic on Arena Constructed.
Humble brags. We both Mythic'd this month.
We did. This was my first time at Mythic, though, because I actually tried. And then I became the bad guy. I played Civic Nexus, and that deck is bad. I mean, the deck is good, but should not exist in the Standard format. It's busted. But some people were playing Gleaming Overseer as just like a 3-drop defensive body. It obviously, I think their goal in their deck, they were playing things. I wasn't playing Simic at this time. I was just trying to figure out what to play in the format. And I was probably playing an aggressive deck, but it's just a 1/4 that comes. So it's 1 blue-black for a zombie wizard. It says when Gleaming Overseer enters the battlefield, amass 1, and it says zombie tokens you control have hexproof and menace. So they were playing this in tandem with the 1 black enchantment that amasses every turn.
Invasion. Okay.
Yeah, invasion. Okay. So you're creating this army token that now is hard to get rid of, basically,
and gets to attack easier.
Correct.
Okay.
So this was kind of the idea of what they were trying to do with these sort of decks, and they were still sort of a blue black or Esper. I guess at this point in time, you're probably sliding more into a mid-range deck with the kind of threats you were presenting. Basically, they were just able to effectively do this and have Enter the God Eternal and all these tacitly good cards that just have amassed on them, and suddenly you just have a giant menace hexproof creature attacking and gaining life or what have you.
Interesting.
And a 1/4 for an aggressive deck is a pain.
It really is. Okay. That's interesting.
So it may not seem like much, but I wouldn't be surprised if people you saw this out of the sideboard of some Persuasion, or you saw a blue black amass deck really trying to go hard in the paint with the amass mechanic.
Interesting. All right. Next up though is Leyline Prowler, which is 1 generic black green for a creature Nightmare Beast. This is a 2/3 Death Touch lifelink. Tap it, add 1 mana of any colored mana pool. So you got your Birds of Paradise and my Vampire Nighthawk and peanut butter and chocolate, all that fun stuff. I want to put this on this list because it has the right mana cost and keywords to be something. If you are trying to ramp something, if you're doing mid-range stuff, I think for me, especially once some of the Explore creatures leave the format, you're probably not playing this card ever over like Merfolk Branchwalker or
Jadelight Ranger.
But once those are gone, and you want your black-green X deck to gain some instant of life, like, I love this card a lot. When it comes down, it can block a lot of things. Life Link the Death Touch, we've always been a proven good combination, and it still can ramp a little bit. This creature is powerful to me.
Yeah, I one of the things that just needs for this card to like really be a viable option, this card feels less oppressive when we have Chain Whirler in the format, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
or can I just not face down a 3/3 first strike?
Right, yeah, exactly. So once that is out of the picture, then you get me kind of interested in this card. But that's going to be happening the same time that we lose Ixalan in the first place, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So like, keep an eye on this card. Maybe it's not relevant now, but when we go to Kaldheim, in the autumn, because that's probably what it's going to be, and everyone should be, very excited for Snow Covered coming back as a mechanic, and us getting barbarians and Vikings or what have you. I don't know. That's just pure speculation. But wherever we go, in the fall, keep your eye on this card as being, maybe that a new 3-drop to kind of bridge the gap between, your early game and your late game.
100%. Where are you going to go with the next one?
Let me see what it is.
He's a Twister.
Oh yeah, okay. So we have Living Twister, and this card it's multicolored. You have to spend a dial on it, and then wherever it lands,
you kiss that person.
No, that's where you put your foot or your hand.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Living Twister is red, green. For an elemental, for a creature elemental, it is a 2/5. And this is the most random stats on a
right?
red, green creature. Red, green. That's like one of the most aggressive colors in Magic. Let's make it a 2/5. What? All right. Anyway, it has 2 activated abilities. It's 1 in a red, discard a land card. Living Twister deals 2 damage to any target, and it has green. Return target tapped land. Return a tapped land you control to its owner's hand. So this allows you to pick up lands and throw them at your opponents. Or any target, really. But
yeah, that's true. I like this card more than I think. I don't know where it goes.
No idea.
It's 2/5.
In your defensive Gruul deck.
I mean, like, it still attacks. It protect. It lives through Lava Coil.
It attack. Yeah.
But those abilities are pretty relevant and kind of the kind of ability that's been stapled onto good cards in the past. Arcslogger comes to mind. These creatures that have maybe odd looking stats or odd looking creatures, but their abilities really do help. This can. I think what I like about this card is on 3, it can be defensive. It can do a lot of blocking, maybe for ramping. It can, like I said, still attack. But late game, this is a much better draw than your regular 3-drop because if you've been flooding, especially in your ramp style deck,
and like
all of a sudden,
right, and all of a sudden you can just bounce a bunch of lands back to your hand, and then like obviously you could do this immediately. You don't have to tap anything. You have to tap the land, but okay, you're probably doing that to generate the green in the first place.
So I want to talk about that for a second. I've been trying to figure out what the reasoning is for that, and I have to assume it's just to one, reduce clicking issues on Arena, but 2, it's also sort of like teaching you how to do this because I've been teaching some people how to play recently, and the concept of floating mana is a little tricky when you first incorporate it. Because when you don't have, especially since lands don't say like mana pool anymore.
Yeah.
The concept of like you have this is floating here until then. This will tell you like, okay, so you want to tap these for that red, and if you're going to discard a land, you're probably going to tap these lands already to have that mana ready, and then you can bounce this back.
Right.
And then you can do this. So I think like the card inherently wants to teach a little bit on how to do that. Like, yeah, you tapped this green, this forest, and you're going to return that forest. But if you're going to, tap this green mana, but you need to return whatever else, like what your mana base is, I think it's kind of teaching. So again, it seems like it's Arena to me, so you don't accidentally click a land you didn't want to.
Yeah.
But I think it could also teach because floating is tough. It is tough to learn, especially with the way the cards are printed now.
For sure.
So, but I think maybe it won't see play, but it has the makings of one of the. If I see a card playing that deck and doing well, I will not be surprised. I know because I think it's the kind of card that a lot of people would say, "Oh, that's a bulk rare," but when you get shot for 6 or 8, you'll remember. Next up is Mayhem Devil, which is generic black and red for a 3/3 creature devil. It says whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target. So hey, look, okay, there's this deck. It's pretty obscure. I don't know how much we talked about it. It's called Aristocrats.
Obviously, I think like this is definitely a payoff.
A payoff for I think a different build that we've been talking about.
Yes, so. This is a deck where if you have this and you want like a Bontu in it, right?
You want a Bontu. You want the what's the actual aristocrat that's like supposed to be like cartel aristocrat?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You want to pay a mana for,
right?
You want sacrifice outlets.
Correct. And this is probably pretty low, like on the tier list as far as like cards you're looking for in a aristocrat's shell. You know, you want things that just care when they die. That's how they're most effective. But obviously, like you can pull off some pretty massive sort of swings if you have the board in the right position. And with something like Bonsu, who wants you to sacrifice permanents, and this only cares about permanents, and this, more importantly, doesn't care if you are sacrificing them or your opponent is as well. So it is a symmetrical effect that when you see this, that's symmetrically positive.
Yeah,
for you, I
guess.
It affects both players.
Yeah, you mentioned Bontu. Bontu's a card that is scariest with this because like two of these cards, depending on your board, Bontu is actually just game over. But it also plays really, really well with Liliana, the Dreadhorde General.
That's very true.
And you mentioned the symmetrical effect, like Liliana's symmetrical effect might net you. They stack two creatures, and if they had another one, you might be able to deal 4 to it with this, and that's real gross. So there's a lot of places this card's good, and it's just a 3/3 for 3, which is a fine rate. You're not overpaying for like something horrific you wouldn't play it back anyways. It's an interesting card.
It's something to take note of. Also, that thing's riding like the most. I would not want to ride that unicycle.
It's literally a unicycle.
It's got like spikes on it, and I don't know if it has a seat.
I want to say it was Robot Chicken, but there was like Batman had the Batmobile, and then like when you shot it with something, like he ejected into like the Bat, like it was like the Bat motorcycle, and then he hit it again and it ejects into the Bat unicycle, and he just keeps going. Like that's what this looks like.
Oh man, yeah, that's a spiky unicycle. I'm all about not having spiky.
Yeah, he swerves into the other side of cars. He pushes them off the track. No steering wheel though. Doesn't need it.
Oh no. He's got to have his hands free for fireballs, it looks like.
Pew, I don't know. That guy would have, I will say this, for Rakdos, would have an entertaining show.
Yeah, for sure.
You would be entertained. You'd be dead, but you would be entertained.
So next up, we have Neoform.
The card Breaking Modern currently.
Currently, yes. Neoform. It's a green and a blue for sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost, and put that card into the battlefield with additional +1/+1 counter on it. Then shuffle your library. So this is an effect that we've seen a few times. You can even look back at something like a Natural Order, realistically, where you have to sacrifice a creature and you get a creature at its base level. Eldritch Evolution is probably closer to this sort of effect. Even looking at Birthing Pod
and
Vannifar. But this is the cheapest we've seen it. Green Blue is something that people have been able to do on turn 1 in Modern due to some things like...
You said due to? That sound like doo-doo?
Yes. Due to things like Chancellor of the Tangle, right? Because that's the one that you can reveal and
Chancellor
get a green.
Tangle and Allosaurus Rider.
Allosaurus Rider, Chancellor of the Tangle, and Simian Spirit Guide. So these free mana spells... So Allosaurus Rider is it's 7 CMC, right?
Yeah, 7 CMC, and you can exile 2 green cards in your hand as opposed to its mana cost. So.
Right. It's similar to, there was a whole cycle in Cold Snap that was exile 2 colored cards from your hand and do an effect. There used to be a combo deck in Modern that used like Soul Spike, which is exile 2.
Soul Spike, Fury of the Hordes also part of the combo.
Correct.
I know Commandeer has seen play. I don't remember what the white one does.
Nothing good, apparently.
Yeah,
not good enough.
It's a free spell. It'll get broken at some point.
Yeah, someone will figure it out.
But yeah, so it just like casts out on turn 1 and has the green lands for the Chancellor and plays a blue source and
yes,
gets a turn 1 Grizzlebrand.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then you, hilariously, it's an 8/8 Grizzlebrand because it has a +1/+1 counter on it.
Course, yeah.
Not that that's super relevant, but then you are able to, as you know, the Grizz Shoal Horde brand decks do. They just draw their whole deck, and they continue to go off because of Nourishing Shoal, and then they combo kill you through some various shenanigans.
Charcuterie.
Charcuterie. And this is now a deck that is killing people on pretty consistently on turns 1 and 2 in Modern currently, if you are playing on Magic Online.
Should we even know, as we're recording this, the London
Mulligan rule is still
in effect. It will not be by the time the episode goes up.
No. I think it ends tomorrow.
I don't know if that kills that deck or not.
I don't think it does.
But it certainly does affect its consistency.
Sure. Yeah. This deck will not be able to do turn 1, turn 2 kills as consistently with London Mulligan. But here's the thing. If London Mulligan becomes the thing, then this just goes back to being king. So people have already been saying, like, Wizards may need to step in on this and actually do something about it. And they'll have the opportunity to do so. We have, 2 weeks after the Mythic Championship, they have a new banner restricted list. So they would be able to potentially do something about this if there really was a concerning factor with it.
We can talk about it more when we talk about Modern next week.
Yeah.
Because there may be other things too, but
could you imagine if they allowed like War of the Spark cards in the Mythic Championship,
and that was the deck that just like ran the tournament over?
Yeah,
that would have been an oopsie beyond all oopsies.
Though I mean, it would have been just another like Eldrazi, Mythic Championship, And some people are trying to decide if this is just like a fun another like combo deck that you can play, or if this is Eldrazi Winter, coming to roost in Modern until they fix it. So
I will say this: I don't know if it's that or not, but the fact that this doesn't have any extra means, like it doesn't need like a lot of the decks we've seen like this. This is why Surgical is so positive, like popular right now. You use the graveyard, just that. This doesn't need any of that.
No. It just
like
goes.
Even Griselbrand normally does.
Yeah.
This does not need that.
The only thing like the card that shuts this down is Grafdigger's Cage, which is a nice thing to have in the format, but you have to have that on turn 1.
You do have to have it.
You have to be on the play.
I mean, you could thought seize. Anyways,
sure.
Yeah, no, I get it.
They would just draw it anyway. They would just draw the card they need.
Oh yeah,
just in your heart of hearts, you just know.
Let's talk about something more exciting first.
Yeah.
Neoform I think could be exciting in Standard, but let's talk about Nicol Bolas Dragon God. Blue, black, red for a 4 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Bolas. Nicol Bolas Dragon God has all loyalty abilities of all other Planeswalkers on the battlefield. +1, you draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. -3, destroy target creature or Planeswalker. -8, each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or Planeswalker loses the game.
Yeah, this card's good.
Yeah, there's not much else about it. It's
already being played a lot, and like it's basically making Grixis be a viable deck.
Grixis got their Teferi. I mean, that's what happened. They are very similarly templated.
Yeah,
in how they operate, and they both do have an alt at -8 that generally win the game.
Generally, I mean, like you're not. First of all, if it doesn't win you the game, you're probably not minusing 8.
No, of course not. But here's the thing: like if you got to take this up to 8. What in the world could your opponent have in play that would cause you not to immediately win?
Yeah, true.
In response, I'll flash in Wrath Capashen.
Nice,
gotcha, Bolas. It was me the whole time. But I think the line of text where it has all things that Planeswalkers have, that's cute, and there are some ways to combo off with it. Specifically, you can make infinite Nicol Bolases with an Oath of Teferi and Jace Cunning Castaway, hilariously enough, because you can tick up and then tick down to get 2, and then tick up and then tick down, and tick up and then tick down, and you make infinite Bolases. And Saffron Olive has done that as well, so you can go look for the video of that. How good that is in the format, I don't know. You literally have to play Oath of Teferi and Jace Cunning Castaway, both cards that have not been deemed playable. There you go. But I think it amazes me how many random infinite combos there are in Standard all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean,
none of them are like Felidar Guardian level, and so inherently I'm not too upset about it. But It is weird to go from one to a bunch of them, and the one I know of is the one that I have in the stupid Brawl deck that I have, and it's like 16 red cards for it to be infinite. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird place to be. But Nicol Bolas is definitely good. It's going to see a ton of play, probably with itself, which is really weird. You'll see Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, curved into Nicol Bolas, Dragon God a lot, I think. So, good card, though.
For sure. Are we talking about Niv-Mizzet Reborn?
I didn't have it on here. Did you want to?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. I don't think the card's good enough.
It's a cool story moment. How about that?
Have you gotten there yet?
No.
Reserve judgment.
I mean, the card looks cool. I don't know.
The card does look cool.
The art on the card is good. How about that?
Yeah, I like he definitely is in full superhero mode here with like the emblem on his chest.
Yeah.
I am the Guild Pact.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty great here. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on here with this card. I can't possibly see it being played. Is that wrong of me to think that this card can't see play?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
It's sad.
You know what? If you want to have a 5-color Brawl deck that's not Jodah, right? Because that's the only one that we have currently.
Yes.
There you go. You got a new Brawl commander.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
This will be popular. It's a nice tree. This will be a popular just commander in general. People like Niv-Mizzet. People like triggering this and trying to draw cards, and somebody's going to want to just reveal 10 and see 10. Someone's going to want to live that dream and tell that story. They won't, but they want to try.
Yeah,
so.
the stats are not on your side.
Moving on.
The actual card we have is Oath of Kaya, I believe.
It is.
So Oath of Kaya is 1 generic black and white for a legendary enchantment. It says when Oath of Kaya enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. It says whenever an opponent attacks a planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, Oath of Kaya deals 2 damage to that player, and you gain 2 life. So this is a pretty good card. Looking at it, when it comes to the battlefield, you get to Lightning Helix. That's fine. Sorcery Speed Lightning Helix, but that is good against
any target's real good though.
Any target is exactly what you want. I mean, if this was limited to like creature or planeswalker, you'd be less interested. But this is weirdly gives like not that you would need it, but weirdly gives like Esper decks reach.
Yeah,
which is hilarious.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting.
But think about it. You're obviously going to have, Teferi. People are going to want to pressure it. Now they're going to get punished to do so if you're playing this. And this is like lights out for red decks and not lights out, but definitely impactful. It's more of a tool than Esper really had before this card. It shifting the sort of the swing. Being able to kill something like a Chain Whirler and gaining 3 life is a pretty big deal.
This in conjunction with Kaya's Planeswalker, Kaya, or Orzhov Usurper against aggressive decks is pretty gross because you want to pressure that card because it's going to just keep gaining life each turn. But every time you attack it and can't finish it off, you're just giving away life. So do you attack the Planeswalker? And the same is obviously true for Teferi, but that life gain is just tough to fight with. So I think the card is definitely pretty good. I've also liked it. I've seen it play with some decks that are again playing things like Sorin.
Yeah.
Because you want Sorin to be at a nice, healthy loyalty total to use the minus X ability. Mm-hmm. This helps with that. But yeah, I think like the oaths that I've seen play are the ones that give you something immediately that is very relevant. Oath of Chandra saw a fair amount of play because it did deal 3 damage to a target. Oath of Nissa essentially cycled it. Those are the oaths that saw play, and I think Oath of Kaya fits right in with that. All right, our next card, I'm going to make sure I'm not crazy here, is Ral, Storm Conduit. 2 generic blue-red for a legendary planeswalker, Ral. Starts with 4 loyalty. Static ability is whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Ral Storm Conduit deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. +2 scry 1. -2 when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
New toppies for your copy.
I like toppies. You guys want a toffee? I can make 2. This card is powerful. I've liked some of these more off the wall planeswalker designs that they have a lot of loyalty. They don't do much until they do everything. Now this the thing with Ral does lead to a couple of infinite combos, specifically with multiple copies of Expansion Explosion, or multiple copies of Double Cast. Which I mean, interesting. You have multiple effects in the format that do that because you can tick down to cast double cast and then cast a second double cast to keep making or Expansion Explosion to keep making copies. And each time
making copies,
shooting for one. Because each time you make the copy, then you can deal one, and it is infinite.
Yes,
and it is not that hard to pull off.
No, I is it worth it? I'm not sure.
Should I let you work it?
Yeah, put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. I'm not sure. Like, I think Ral is definitely something that's like nice as just like a value planeswalker.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm not sure if the combo aspect of it's really going to be important. My concern is right now is reading the way that the decks have kind of changed with War of the Spark, where you would look to have this might be Temur Rec, right? I don't know if Temur Rec is worth playing if you can just play Simic and just play Simic Nexus, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say though, like in a deck like talking about Temur Rec, you're not playing this because of the combo, but you get to play the combo.
Yeah, you have that out. It might be a way that you're able to sort of finish the game. But most of the time, you're going to probably take this down and just explosion your opponent out of the game.
Also,
and that's
totally
just
fine.
What you're going to be doing. I think that's where it's most effective. I don't know. I like it. I don't know how. Where it stands, because again, in like Temur Rec, it's another 4 like CMC thing, so it's not drawing you cards necessarily. It is a way that you can pressure things. I don't know. It's a weird card, and it has a combo potentiality. I'm way more into like Ral's Outburst than I am to Ral's Store Conduit, in my opinion.
I do think like if you haven't seen it in some of the Drake or is it Phoenix builds?
Yeah, maybe that's where like you get more out of it.
Ticking down and getting to copy like just like what's the Charter Course, for example?
Yeah, that sounds great.
It just does something that because the Phoenix deck desperately wants some card advantage. And this really lets you do that. And again, when you first play it and you tick up, it's at a really healthy life total. You get incidental damage out of all your spells. So I think there's a couple of places where Ral could see play. But we can move on to his Outburst, though, because he gets so angry.
Yeah, he just gets so TO'd. So Ral's Outburst.
Sometimes you make me so mad.
2 generic, blue-red for an instant. Ral's Outburst deals 3 damage to any target. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So this is Lightning Bolt and Sleight of Hand, kind of.
Yes, it's mini Prophetic Bolt.
Yeah.
So,
I like how it's 2 of these effects, but we had to make it cost 2 more generic because they're both too efficient.
Yeah. Well, and Sleight of Hand's also a sorcery, so making it an instance kind of nice.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the normal price would be on deal 3 damage, draw a card, but I assume it's at least 3.
Yeah.
At instant speed, it's at least 3, if not 4. So
sure,
this doesn't feel bad.
You have like Electrolyze to look at, and that's fire and draw a card. So that's.
I'm a little less optimistic about this card because it costs so much. If 3 damage was in a better spot in the format, I would feel better about it. But because there's so many, the fact that this doesn't kill a Gruul Spellbreaker with a counter, or Growth Chamber Guardian that's been pumped, or a Venerated Loxodon, or even like Enter the Godfair as a token. There's so many things that it doesn't hit that I'm spending so much mana on, and I could be spending so much less mana to make sure I kill those things. That extra card better be worth it, and maybe it will be, but I don't know. I'm a little less high on this.
It's specifically in Temur Rec, I like it because of its instant speed. It's something that you can cast your Reclamation to untap and be able to do that's effective.
You're not wrong.
So that's why I like it. Temur Rec is a deck that wants to play at instant speed. This is just another way they can progress their board state and still draw a card that isn't something like a bounce spell or anything like that.
Yeah, I get that.
With a lot more planeswalkers just that are going to be within the format, that 3 damage may not be going to a creature. It could be going to a planeswalker.
The versatility I will give you. That is fair.
So that's the reason why I like it specifically in that deck. I don't think it's worth it probably any other deck because it is expensive, but for Team Wreck, it just feels like all your cards cost 0 in the first place, right?
That's kind of true.
That's kind of where I like it. Yeah, 3 damage doesn't necessarily go as long of a way as it used to. But that changes, and maybe
I think it still goes a long way. But when your 3 damage spell costs 4 mana instead of 1 or 2. It's really got to knock it out of the park, and I don't know that this does. So.
Right, but you do, and you're not just drawing a card; you do get selection,
a little bit of selection. You do,
and potentially it's something like Team Wreck. Maybe you're bidding a draw 2.
Yeah, that's possible. I will say you do also get 2 cards again for your Search for Skanta off of this because the other card goes to the graveyard.
Yeah,
so that's fair. Next up, I want to briefly talk about Rollesk Apex Hybrid.
Rolex.
Rollesk, right?
Yeah.
I got Sweet Watches, Apex Hybrid.
I mean, it could be Roll-esque. So
Rollesk,
like
barrel.
Cole, so Cole, like Roll-esque, Rolex. I don't know. I'm just saying that could be it.
Okay, so Jeff Apex Hybrid is 2 generic green, and a blue for a 4/5 legendary creature, human mutant. Flying trample. When it enters the battlefield, put 2.
This is just he does look a little bit like Archangel. To be fair,
yeah, it's true.
I'm getting that vibe.
If he had a crab. Like crab arms attached to his back.
Well, you hide those. That's where the missiles come out, right?
Yeah, you are now you are my horseman of the apocalypse. Part of that when you sign the contract does mean you get these crab arms. I've been trying to change it for a millennia, but you still just get crab arms. I'm real sorry.
Can't change it.
So it enters the battlefield, put 2+1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. When it dies, proliferate, then proliferate again. So you get a 5 mana 4/5 flyer with trample. It comes in, it adds 2 power to another thing, and when it dies, you get to proliferate twice. The only time we've ever seen that line of text is on another mythic, which was something engine. I can't think of it. Plague Engine? Is that it?
Yeah, something like that.
Which was tap and proliferate
yeah,
again.
it's artifact.
So that again, if you are in a counters deck, if you're in a Simic deck that's playing a lot of creatures with +1/+1 counters, this is gross. Your opponent either has to find a way to subdue this pretty big flyer, or maybe blow up your board.
Yeah.
So now, Morgan, when we first saw this card, you mentioned how crazy it is. Like, most people have not said much about this card, and honestly, it may not do enough in the format. To me, it does seem like a sweet card in Vannifar. Like, if you are trying to build the Neoform Vannifar deck, like, this is the thing you get 2 on 5, and if you sack this to get to your 6 drop, your board gets to do a bunch of cool things.
Yeah, like this does something coming in and going out,
right?
Which is what you want in those kind of decks, and I feel like
not just burritos,
right? It's something that we don't have a critical amount of in the format. When you look at Birthing Pod, when that was a viable deck both in modern and standard, you had the cards that they came in, gave you a present, and they left, and they left something for you. Still, they were just so giving. We don't necessarily have a lot of giving creatures, but this definitely fits that bill. And when you think about we haven't. When you think about some of the things that we've gotten in the format now, we have Kiora, so you might have these tacit planeswalkers that won't take up, but now we'll be able to continue existing.
Yeah, you get to play this on 4 and draw a card with the Kiora.
And
a lot. Proliferate gives your Kiora more counters.
Yeah.
It could just not do enough, but
for sure. I can see this card never getting played, and it blows my mind. It's it's a 4 mana, a 5 mana 4/5 flying trample. Could you imagine showing that to someone 10 years ago, a decade ago, in Magic, and be like, "Hey, creatures are going to look like this someday," and then being like, what did they do?
Unplayable creatures are going to look like this.
Unplayable creatures. You're going to look at this and be like, not good enough. And they'll be like, what?
I think I should quit now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I think, when my opponent goes Vannifar into this or Neoforms into this, I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And, oh, shoot, how am I going to deal with their board now? So I like this card.
Let's figure out a teamer creature deck so that we can play this and Domri or this and Rhythm of the Wild, so that it always lands or has haste.
Just like Teamer aggro.
Yeah, let's figure it out.
Again, anything that has Dominating Gruul Spellbreaker, I'm already in.
Oh, right, yeah. Like
so we can figure this out.
This is like, I mean, if you had this to cast or like Skargan Hellkite, I'm probably down to casting this, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll get back to you guys on that. We probably won't do anything with it, but it seems like a shame that they printed this creature and we're like, meh.
Yeah.
It feels like Wizards like, what more do you want, you monsters?
I want to quickly mention Solar Blaze. It's not good enough. That's it.
Yeah, those kind of. I mean, like we even had like Justice Strike, which was an efficient 2-mana thing that did this, and still saw like a little bit of play when Jeskai was a thing, but.
I think the problem, especially when you look at like the decks of I want this, think of something like Wild Growth Walker and just go, oh, whoop, nope, can't play this card ever.
It's just stone unplayable.
This card is hilarious if your opponent has a bunch of Death Touch creatures, though.
Yeah,
because they do kill themselves.
What? Why?
Oh, the sun's so bright, I stabbed myself. How?
With the poison.
With the poison. I'm so dumb. I deserve this.
I deserve this. So I guess next up is Sorin. So Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord, 2 generic, a white and black for a legendary planeswalker. Sorin has 4 starting loyalty. The stack ability is as long as it's your turn, creatures and planeswalkers you control have lifelink.
God, you curve Gideon into this.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It also is hilarious with Chandra, right? Oh, I guess you'd have to ultimate Chandra though for that to happen, which doesn't matter. But who cares? Now you can tick up your Sorin and target your own Chandra, and then we have like we have some sort of weird chain going for no reason.
That's what you're just sending a message for no reason.
You're like,
tick up,
do this.
Me? No, target my Chandra.
What do you think about that? How does that make you feel?
I think you're a bad Magic player. You are correct.
You have assessed the situation correctly.
I cast Solar Blaze.
All right. So that the +2 is deal 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. And it says -X, return target creature with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. So he done bites one of your dead boys and brings him back as a vampire. You gotta start recreating the Markov bloodline somehow, right?
I just like how much harder he has to try to bring things back than Liliana. Liliana's like, I'm gonna control an entire undead army with my mind, and Soren's like, if I push real hard, I can get 1 vampire.
Well, it's just like, you're gonna make me bite the dead guy. I don't want to do this. All right.
He's looking at the vampire. What's that card where the vampire's eating the Eternal, and he's like, no, look at
don't
that.
Do that. Stop that. But enough making fun of this card. This card's going to be pretty good. I think
this card is sweet. I have to say, this card is my favorite of the Japanese alternate Planeswalker arts too.
Yeah,
it just looks like a piece of Castlevania like cover art to me, like that.
You definitely get that vibe for sure.
But I do think this card is really good. The static ability lets you do some cool things in combat. The +1 is can ping off a lot of things, and the -X is pretty good. I think. The card that I've seen in this slot in a lot of decks is like a Johnny.
Yes.
What's it? Something of Tyrants.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I think in a lot of decks I want this over that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about Esper midrange coming back to potentially being a contender in the format, and it has a lot of creatures that are fairly cheap. They're like, oh, I'll bring this back. I'll bring back this here precinct 1. I'll bring back this.
That's the card I'm most excited with. This card for sure.
So. That's where I think it's going to be most effective in that shell. And I mean, obviously, it's +1, it's +2. You want it because it's +2. Like that's how it's effective. The effect is kind of like a little small, but you obviously want this to have a higher loyalty. And I mean, when you're looking at it, the reanimation effect is just powerful, and allows you to place this and bring back something, with 3 CMC or less immediately, to protect it or, what have you. And, I think this card's pretty effective at what it's going to be doing. It's probably one of the best rare, level planeswalkers.
All of the outside of maybe a Johnny, the 4-mana rare planeswalkers, really, I think they're good designs. They are, I think they're better designs than a lot of the past planeswalkers have been. I've complained about a lot of the uncommon ones, and I will say my gripes with that haven't changed.
Yeah,
but some of the rare ones I do think show where you could go with this kind of design, so it makes me happy. Chandra, Ral, Sorin, these are all pretty compelling cards. Next up is Soul Diviner. Blue-black for a 2/3 zombie wizard. Tap it, remove a counter from an artifact, creature, land, or planeswalker you control, draw a card. And this is the guy murdering a Domri.
Yeah, it's the start of the end, really.
It is. This card has such a powerful ability. A 2/3 for 2 is fine, but the ability is so powerful. If you have Dreadhorde Invasion, well, you can use your Amass to draw a card. You can take things off planeswalkers to do it, who then can maybe tick back up. I think the most exciting one here, at least for like what you could do in Standard, is land.
Yeah.
Because you can take it off Blast Zone, and now Blast Zone can hit tokens, which it can be a huge blowout just depending on how the board is sort of set up.
Right.
It's kind of awkward because I don't think there's a deck that currently exists that wants this card.
No.
But again, maybe it's this deck we're talking about that's playing a bunch of the Enter the God Eternals. You know what I mean? Like I think
that's true.
The ability seems so powerful to me. It's so close in a lot of decks to just tap draw a card.
Yeah.
That I'm excited for it.
This works really well with Treasure Map.
Oh, man, it does.
It works really well with Treasure Map. So keep that in mind, folks.
Wow, I didn't think about that. That's a really good interaction.
If you are looking for a way to build this card and you want an artifact, and Treasure Map is going to go well in a 2-color deck. Now, obviously, Blue-Black does have a lot of ways for card advantage, but Treasure Map is a still very, very good card, and
Jeez, you get the scry and then you get to draw. That's
right.
Real good.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
So that's one thing that sticks out to me as an effective way to use this card.
And like in addition, I think it just works really well with Karn, Sign of Urza.
Yeah,
that's a card that goes up to a ton of loyalty, and honestly, you're pretty much in the business of sticking up.
Yeah.
Every now and then you might take it down, but you're probably just ticking it up.
Right.
So it's got a bunch of extra loyalty. You're just happy to eat.
Yeah, I mean, this card you got to work for it, but there's some fun things you can definitely do.
Yeah, and again, it gets a respectable 2/3 for 2. It can block a lot of creatures. Again, I don't know where it goes, but I like it. It's powerful.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Storov, you're not good enough.
You're not. Oh, I do want to point out that looking at this card definitely looks like Storov just has a bunch of hands all over.
Yeah, it's like bones.
Yeah, but it just from like this far, and the art's kind of like smaller on my end. It just looks like hands.
So she definitely also doesn't look like she has a nose.
Yeah, no.
And it's awkward. So I don't know.
Are you looking at my nose hole?
Yes. I
can tell.
Oh, all right. But now we get Tamio.
Tamio, Collector of Tales, 2 generic, green and
so
blue.
Many of them. so many
stories.
These poor animals. Oh, homophones are tough for me.
Legendary Planeswalker Tamio. She starts with 5 loyalty, and her static ability is spells and abilities. Your opponent's control can't make you. Can't cause you to discard cards or sacrifice permanents. The +1 is choose a non-land
card name.
Choose a non-land card name. Isn't that typically like name a card? Is that how that's worded?
I think choose is pretty common now.
Okay. Choose a non-land card name, then reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all cards with the same name as the same name as the name card into your hand and the rest to your graveyard. That's basically the gist of that ability. It says as it has a -3, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So Eternal Witness. This card is I want to say like busted, but it is what makes like Simic Nexus the Reclamation deck du jour. That I think it's what allows it to overtake Reclamation as the team of Reclamation as the Reclamation deck.
Yeah,
I should say.
I don't think we've ever really worried about like Nexus being, we were frustrated with the card, and we had a lot of reasons not like it, especially the foil versions. But I think we did agree with Wizards' assessment, at least in Best of 3, that it wasn't, once we saw it in like paper tournaments, it wasn't taking over. This does put a little tinge of fear in me. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen this deck play out, and when they don't have when they have this on 4 instead of Reclamation, they just take up a name Reclamation.
Yep.
But in the games where like they're starting to chain together the Nexuses, this card makes them so consistent. They see so many cards on their turn already, and then you're just like, here's another 4. I'll just name Nexus of Fate, and every time you do it, you make because of the way that decks just operate and is built, you are ensuring that is more and more and more likely that you're going to keep hitting it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just how it works.
It just like it continues to be, it just turns into an engine card. When you are playing against that deck before, you could hope that they peter out. You would hope that they brick and you get another turn. Maybe they don't have a thing online and they're at a low enough life total that all you need is another turn and then you can get them. With this card, it allows them to, if they already have a Reclamation out, play this, tick down, get a Fog, and pass the turn. Cool. Like, you can't kill me. You can't kill my Planeswalker.
Right.
You can't make me discard cards. You can't make me sacrifice permanents. Like, which is a real thing.
I mean, we talked about Ongoth's Rampage.
Yeah.
Like, this is a good answer to Tamio. It's not.
People are going to try to make you, try to duress you, try to thought erasure you, try to. It makes the Eldest Reborn an embarrassing card.
Yeah, certainly does.
And it just gives them infinite time if they're not ready to set up and they have a Reclamation out. And then once they start going off, it is certainty at that point in time. Like, you're either going to find the cards you need or get them back from your graveyard. This is how they're going to win with repeating their win condition, whether that's like Commence the End Game or even like Callous Dismissal and like generating a giant army. It just allows them to like have that. It allows them to have inevitability and an inevitability that they may not have had previously.
No, and I think that's what's this on turn 4 is already in just this a couple days of playing has become just as scary, if not worse, than when they play Wreck on 4. It's just like, oh man, or on 3 even because of Growth Spiral. So Tamio is very good. Now, does Tamio do anything outside of that? I'm not sure, but its play pattern again is interesting, and I think I would enjoy the design a lot more if it wasn't helping them take as many turns as possible.
Right? Yeah, that's obviously
or helping you, as the case may be, Morgan.
Yeah, it was great. I know how good this card is and how good this deck is now. Like it literally, like I was playing it towards the tail end last week to try to get to Mythic, and it felt unbeatable. Like it felt if you were playing green black. Or just stop. Just concede the game.
Anything to have like an aggressive enough slant was going mid rangey, you were probably just like you had it.
Exactly. And now I think that there are definitely ways to still attack it. The Simic deck. You definitely you're definitely still weak to your control decks, but they're just less prominent in the format at this point in time. People are trying new things and not playing Esper. But the Esper mid range deck theoretically should have a pretty good matchup. They're playing discard spells, which are effective early. They're playing the next card we're going to be talking about, which is fairly effective against this, and they're playing blue, so they can play Narset. And if you want to beat this deck, play Narset.
That is true.
Just hands down. Like, that is the most annoying card. It's a permanent they have a hard time dealing with. If you want to have the edge in the mirror, or if you are playing a blue-based deck, play Narset in the sideboard. And Narset's reversal is also very good against this the Simic Nexus deck.
Oh, interesting.
It turns out bouncing their Nexus of Fate and then taking your own extra turn, very good. Very nice.
Next up, then, as was mentioned, is Teferi Time Raveler. As a generic white and a blue for a 4 loyalty legendary planeswalker, Teferi has a static ability that says each opponent can cast spells only anytime they can cast a sorcery. +1 until your next turn, you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. -3, return up to 1 target creature or enchantment to its owner. Artifact creature or enchantment to its owner's hand. Draw a card. Yeah, I think goes without saying Teferi is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, in all forms.
That static ability, I don't think you understand how frustrating that can be and how many things it just stops entirely.
We literally were just talking about Nexus of Fate as a deck, and that deck, if it cannot play at instant speed, is not nearly as effective.
It just means Reclamation itself doesn't do anything, which is good. This also allows you to, in other formats, it does some interesting things. People have been talking about how, like, Delay, for example, becomes a really good counterspell in Modern when you have this in play.
You know what else becomes a really good counter? What's the ghost that does it? The Spirit.
The 2/3.
Yeah, the flying.
Oh man,
Spell Queller.
Spell Queller.
Spellquellers. When you bounce Spell Queller, it's hilarious when it's your turn.
Yeah,
they go, cool. You want to cast? Oh, you can't. Oh, that's weird. It's gone now.
I think I saw this on Twitter. They might have been Karsten. I don't remember, but Possibility Storm.
Oh, is this another thing that locks people out?
Locks people out.
Yeah,
forever.
This is the whole knowledge pool.
Yeah, this is the whole knowledge pool rule of law setup. So, but I think just as a card, this does a lot of cool things. The +1 enables some interesting. We've already mentioned Enter the God Eternals. Things even like discard spells. I'll cast that in your draw step. Feels pretty
being able
good.
to thought erasure people in their draw step is demoralizing.
Wrath spells get pretty cool, including his namesake card Time Wipe, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And then the -3 is just nice to be able to, you could still bring this down much like the bigger Teferi and deal with a troubling permanent for a turn. You get to grip a card out of it too.
You don't get to hit Planeswalkers.
Okay, that's fair.
That is a definite downside.
Creature.
So, but I think this card is effective. Again, it is, if you're playing a control deck, it's effective out of the sideboard. And if you're playing a mid-range deck, I think you can play it.
There's some builds of the Esper mid-range deck, the White Darby build that I think.
Yes.
And that's a deck that I played a fair amount of to get to Mythic this season. So I'm pretty excited to see versions of it go on. Morgan, you got the next one here.
Is it 10th District Legionnaire?
It is.
10th District Region. Oh, my gosh. 10th District.
Didgeridoo.
10th District Legionnaire is a red and a white for a 2/2 with haste. It's a human soldier. It says whenever you cast a spell that targets 10th District Legionnaire, put a 1/1 counter on it and scry one. So this is like
we already made this card. Hoplite. Favorite Hoplite was the 1-mana one. Battlewise Hoplite.
Battlewise Hoplite, yes. That card didn't have haste.
No. Gonna be very honest. First time I had this card cast against me and it attacked immediately, I went, they didn't cast Sandwich Sprint. Oh God! Why does this have haste?
It just has haste. Don't worry about it. But it does. Again, this is sort of the heroic archetype that they're trying to kind of push a little bit in this format, and it is like the card. Like this is, if you want every card to look like this card, when you target it, you get a bunch of bonuses. The scry one is huge, hugely important just for the sheer fact that you always want to be drawing gas.
Yeah, you just want to make sure you chain spells together.
And being able to intercept that is modify what you're drawing is going to be very good. So this card is everything that deck really wants.
And again, it's just good. Also, shout out to Maleva. Maleva is the person on this card who has had a card in the last 2 Ravnica sets as well.
Yeah,
as she has sort of moved through the battalion.
Getting a promotion here and there.
So, and I just like now, like Tajik is the one who's like, oh no, don't worry, Maleva's on it.
Yeah, with some Maleva. But yeah, this card's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm excited to see a card like this back. So. Yeah. Next up is a card I mentioned before, Time Wipe. 2 generic white, blue for a sorcery. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures. I love this. There's a card similar to this back when we had Abzan, like in the format with cons. It was Dune Blast.
Yes.
Dune Blast destroyed all creatures except for one that you chose. And now that cost 7, but it was a mirror breaker. And this feels pretty close to that, where it's just like, I have baited you. Like, this is crazy because you can bait someone to overextending with a creature.
Yep.
And then be like, oop, gotcha. Mm-hmm. And I like that a lot, especially in conjunction with little Teferi to make it possibly an instant. Also, this card is terrifying for a number of reasons because this is the card where Teferi is like, oh, I can just make things never have been born.
Yeah, like, excuse me? Like, how far back does this go? What's your, temporal limitations?
Yeah,
sir?
You're not a god anymore. We talked about this. You mended. But yeah, to comprehend the full answer requires years of temporal study. In short, they were never born in the first place.
Excuse me?
No, that's not all right.
You can't unborn people. That's murder.
So
that's still murder.
Do you think like I just want to like because like Samit is like here for this war. Do you think Samit would be okay with this? He's like, yeah, I just made a bunch of these people unborn, and Samit's like,
yeah. So
those are my friends.
And to be clear, in the book in the story, like it is made explicitly clear that Samit like knows a lot of the entire.
Yeah, like
it's
just
not
like
all
knows
of them
by name.
Yes, correct. Is she like when he does this? Is the implication
just forget? Jeff? Why does that name sound familiar? I don't know.
That's not Teferi. That's not.
And like, okay, I get it's like magic. Or we could just say it's magic. But so what about all the people that those people touched?
Yeah, this is why you don't mess with time, man.
Yeah,
time travel bad.
Oh man. Anyways, but as far as a card goes, this is powerful, and this wants you to build a different version of blue white or blue white X than we've seen with Esper control. Again, we've mentioned the Esper mid range deck, and that excites me because I think there's enough cards now in standard where you should be able to build a couple different types of decks. So,
yep, cool card. Ethically questionable, though.
More than Teferi's entire career as a planeswalker.
Cool planeswalker, ethically questionable.
Be very careful with what you just said.
Excuse me, ethically questionable. Very clear.
Oh,
anyway,
man. Yeah.
Next up, we're going to talk about the Friend of Wolves.
I just talked about Time Wipe, so you can talk about the good boys.
I don't want to talk about this card because like
you had a bad experience.
I had a bad experience of pre-release. The wolves were not friendly to me, but we're going to talk about Tolsmir, Friend to Wolves, 2 generic, green white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Elf Scout. When Tolsmir enters the battlefield, create Volja, Friend to Elves, a legendary 3/3 green and white wolf creature token. It says, whenever a wolf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life, and that creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So this is interesting. It definitely has a lot of value. It's first of all 6 power for 5 mana. Yep. All right, you're it's spread across 2 bodies. That's all right. You gain 3 life. That's pretty good. Hopefully, you can fight something effectively, so you get to keep your creature around, and then get them down a creature. So that's a nice little like 3 for 1 at that point in time. 3.5 for 1 if you count the 3 life. And you don't have to select a creature to fight because it's up to 1.
It is up to 1.
So I think like this is a neat little package. 5 mana is awkward in green white because that's where Trostani currently sits, and realistically, the green white deck that we have is always going to want to have Trostani, but this might make people look at a different avenue to build in green white.
For sure, and we have to pay attention to this if we ever get any sort of playable flicker. Yeah, this is the kind of card that screams like, "Where's my Restoration Angel? Where's my something like that?"
Yeah. I mean, like, there's ways that you can flicker this card. They are in blue for the most part because you can spark double it because it loses its legendary clause.
That is true.
Which happened to me. Or you can Teferi's like Time Bend or whatever that card is.
Yep.
And blink it, which happened to me.
Which actually makes you get born again, which is weird. I don't know.
I don't know. And Teferi does a lot of weird stuff. If you have if you somehow have 2 of these, they get real gross. You gain 6 life, first of all, that's a whole card, I think, at that point in time.
Can I mention a card we didn't talk about, but having played it in the pre-release, I've reevaluated it. I don't know if it is constructed playable.
Sure.
But with this card, Arlen becomes an interesting card.
Yeah.
So seeing Arlen as the 6 mana uncommon green planeswalker, it's our lovely werewolf. Has 7 loyalty. Says whenever a wolf or werewolf, I think it's wolf or werewolf, I have to remember, enters the battlefield under your control, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And then it ticks down -2 to create a 2/2 wolf. So essentially, you pay 6 mana to get 3 3/3s before it can't go any further. Yeah. But you can curve Tolsmir into Arlen, and then you get a wolf each turn that can then fight something. And then you gain 3 life as well. I reevaluated that card a little bit just because I guess I just didn't pay attention to how much value you got for 1 card's commitment.
Yeah, you get 9 power worth of creatures.
9 power, 3 different bodies, and then like she's not done. Like, if you proliferate or any other way to reset it, it's kind of interesting. And I think like we've seen Davriel already see a bunch of standard play. just because of the card advantage of like 3 discard spells for one thing. So maybe I'm reevaluating that card a little bit, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it pairs really well with card. Again, if you're like the speculator type and like you think we might be going to a wintry plane in the fall.
You mean where wolves might be?
Where wolves might be. I don't know. They might hang out there. Then
I don't know. If it's anything like Game of Thrones, there won't be. They'll allude
only if the budget
they'll
can really
allude
sustain
to wolves,
it.
but they won't really be there.
And they'll make them smaller than they should be, from what I understand. So. But yeah, I like this card. I think it's powerful. I don't think it has a home yet.
Right.
But keep an eye on it.
Next up is Tyrant Scorn. This is a blue-black for an instant. Choose one. Destroy a target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. Return target creature to its owner's hand. A really simple modal card, has Smother mixed with Unsummon. And I think it's kind of perfect. Like, this is such an elegant card. It slots right into, I think, a lot of decks. Smother has been a very highly played removal spell every time it's been printed. And the bounce spell is pretty nice, all at instant speed. So
yeah, and like I've seen it a lot to protect, like in the Grixis decks, to protect your own nickel Bolas the Ravager. And I think like that's been a pretty effective way to like maybe this is a dead card against a certain matchup and it's still relevant. It's still a way to just be like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna blow out your removal spell, and then be able to play my Ravager again and make a discarded card. So that's perfectly fine. But this is another card that you play in Grixis and just makes the deck a lot better.
Yeah. Agree with that. Yeah, just a simple modal card. One of those things that you're like, they've done this before, right? Nope, but it's nice and elegant here. So
yeah.
Next up, we're getting into the hybrid colored planeswalkers, and there's a couple that are playable here. I've been surprised to see Angrath seeing a little bit of play, or at least a little bit of discussion for play.
Yeah. But giving all your creatures menace, which is his static ability, is pretty good. And if you are playing something like a deck that's focused on playing a mass, then maybe the
-2 is okay.
-2 is okay, but I think you're playing this because you want menace.
Yeah, and it's like not super exciting, but it is. What was the Pyre Heart Wolf or whatever is the one that I'm thinking of that sometimes you just need that effect. But one we do know that is pretty solid is Ashiok.
Yeah, Ashiok, Dream Render.
Dream Render.
Which is one Dimir hybrid. It's a legendary planeswalker, Ashiok. Has 5 loyalty. The static ability reads, spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search their library. And the minus is a -1. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, then exile each opponent's graveyard. So this does, the Ashiok does a few important things. A lot of them are pretty relevant in Modern, to be specific. You can't search your library. Fetch lands, search your library. Primeval Titan Pact.
Yeah, that's
searches your library. There are a lot of effects that that shut this down. You can't transmute anymore because that searches your library. There's a lot of things that this does actually affect and hit, and not to mention the graveyard. At this point in time in Modern, the graveyard is probably the most important zone in the format.
Hey, what was the most played single card that wasn't a land in the Modern Pro Tour London?
Surgical Extraction.
Oh, weird. Huh.
So, this is a card that has implications across the Modern format in multiple different matchups, and is cheap, like 3 mana, and that's the sweet spot for planeswalkers, for a large swath of the playable ones in the format.
Its hybrid mana cost also makes it very playable as well across so many different decks. And like I said, you mentioned the search, but just like the graveyard stuff, imagine this against Dredge. Like, not only does it turn off the graveyard, but it's a win condition depending on what point of the game you're in.
Yeah.
Because you can just start. Even if you get rid of the Ashiok, I may have gotten rid of so many of your cards
that you can't effectively win anymore. Yeah.
I think this card is surprising. I had this card in my pre-release. Morgan got to see it a little bit, and this card in limited was disgusting.
It is
with any amount of proliferate. I had multiple wins off of this and the Aeon, so whatever, the one that whenever you cast a non-creature spell you proliferate.
Flux Channeler.
Flux Channeler, that's what it is. And I just milled my opponents out, so that was weird. So yeah, I think Ashiok is probably out of all the uncommon planeswalkers is the one that's most exciting for any amount of playability.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you look at Saheeli. And maybe you see something in there for standard.
And Saheeli is the next card we're going to talk about. So
yeah, so Saheeli is a...
as you point out, Kiora might get some play.
Yes, for sure.
3-mana ramp spell. Saheeli Sublime Artificer, though, is 1 blue hybrid. So 3 total mana for a 5 loyalty legendary planeswalker Saheeli. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. -2, target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So this is just another sort of young pyromancer, monastery mentor sort of thing. The key here is that it's a lot more difficult to interact with.
Yeah. And it also allows your servos or other artifacts you may have just lying about turn into giant flying death machines more than likely. So you look at your spell based drakes,
right?
Making being able to take down -2 play a Crackling Drake for $1 billion and then turn your servo into that and immediately get in for that damage is that's why people considered playing Thud in the Drake decks, because it was an immediate effect to get that damage through.
For sure. I think especially in Standard it has applications. I think in Modern it probably does too. I will say making servos is a lot worse than Thopters, significantly worse.
Significantly worse.
But this card again, 3 mana is a sweet spot for this. If you get to untap with it, you're probably going to make a lot of things. You can play this in a deck with Murmuring Mystic in Standard, or you said Young Pyromancer is your 2-drop in Modern, and maybe kind of go to town.
Yeah, if this card made Thopters, it would be probably the best planeswalker.
That's true. I do think in Standard it's going to get held back a little bit just because right now Chain Whirler is still one of the most played cards in the format, but this and a lot of the cards in the Phoenix and Drake deck, they're all going to survive rotation here in the fall. So I think it's weird to be like, oh, well, but yeah, we're assessing a card that's going to be around a long time in Standard.
There's no reason not to. You can't just look at it as a right now thing because things change when rotation happens. Now you do have to talk a little bit about.
I was going to say, shout out here also to Samut Tyrant Smasher. I don't think a very playable card for a number of reasons. However, its static ability of creatures you control have haste has made it a combo enabler in Standard. And a deck that Morgan and I both have played, I think I like the deck a lot more than Morgan does so far.
I see what the deck can do. I wasn't able to have that experience with the deck, and that's okay. But I know what the deck does, and I wanted to have that experience that Mike is going to describe to you.
So the pilot is Andrew or Eric. I can't remember now off the top of my head.
Eric Hawkins.
Eric Hawkins. There we go. Who same team as I'm gonna forget who's the group that won the planes or won the team Pro Tour. Orange is a Greg Orange, and that group. He plays with that group, and he's a streamer as well. A good guy. Has been playing Arena immediately with a Bolas's Citadel deck that is focused entirely around the Explore mechanic. So 4 Wild Growth Walker, and then every green-black Explore creature you can essentially play that is worth playing: Seeker Squire, Wild Growth Walker, the Merfolk I already lost.
Branch Walker.
And then it plays Bonds of Flourishing. It plays what's a dinosaur? And that's Wayward
Swordtooth, yeah.
Where you can play additional lands, and you set it up so that when you cast your Bolas' Citadel, you have either already enough life or you have a Wild Growth Walker in play to start churning through the top of your library. You play a singleton copy of Samut Tyrant Smasher so that as you're churning through your library, you can find it, play it, and then all your creatures have haste. And you're playing it also with God Eternal Ronus and Command the
Dreadhorde.
Yeah, I keep getting that and Commence the Endgame confused, which is weird. But Command the Dreadhorde, which is, I got to tell you, obscene in that deck.
Yeah.
Because every time you explore in the early game, no matter what it is, you're probably putting it in your graveyard because you just want to churn through your deck. And then when you finally draw the Dreadhorde, you're just like, oh, I have this Wild Growth Walker and 4 or 5 Explore creatures in my graveyard. Yeah, I'll go to 1.
And they all come back and trigger at the same time.
Yeah,
it's very good.
I've really enjoyed playing on Arena because like your opponent lets you go off for a little bit because they don't know what you're doing, and then once they piece it together, the concede they just mash that concede button, right? Like and subscribe. No, concede.
We're not smashing that like button here.
So I will say this: I've been frustrated with a lot of the uncommon walkers, but already more of them are seeing applications that I gave credit for before. So Morgan, I will tip my hat to you a little bit as far as that setup. I still think from the story, after having read the book, from the story part of it, it's complete and utter trash, and they're all garbage. But
oh yeah, you're giving away the ghosts, sir.
I already told you it was before I read the book, and now I've read the book, so I'm just confirming. I was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Fair enough.
But I think that a lot more of these are, again, a lot of them are still bad. Like just Dovin is not going to see play. Huatli maybe. Kaya probably not. Nahiri, there's literally no playable equipment. They're just not there. But I think that some of the static abilities allowing some of the cards to see play that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise, I think that's at least interesting. So I will concede some of that credit back to you. So
I'll take it.
Take it. Bathe in it. Soak it in.
I will.
I can see your skin getting younger. I can see the brighter color in your eyes.
Oh no, you're Benjamin buttoning me. I'm gonna be a wee child here soon.
Don't say we. All right. The next card is yours, and it's the last Planeswalker. Nope, it's not. I forgot. Right? No, it is. Good.
No, it's not.
No, it's not because we have one more. No, we have two more.
We have two more.
It's not a two more.
So it's Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge.
Yes.
4 generic blue-black for a legendary Planeswalker Tezzeret. Starts with 5 loyalty. The static ability on Tezzeret is creatures and Planeswalker spells you cast have affinity for artifacts, which is a wild thing to see on a current card.
I just love the fact that there's so many cards in War of the Spark that have mechanics that aren't named. We have Heroic, we have Battalion, we have Awaken, but the card that gets to be the promo card, it doesn't have to word. It can just say Affinity.
Yeah. The +2 is Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of artifacts you control. You gain X life. -3. Return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. And then -8, exile the top 10 cards of your library. Put all artifact cards from among them onto the battlefield.
So this card's really interesting to me because all of the lines of text are irrelevant. If you are building for this card, then the +2 is how you kill people.
Yeah.
And for the other, Tezzeret Agent of Bolas, you had to set up to minus. Here, the way this works is you cast this, and instead of searching for other artifacts, you're hoping that you just get to play this and tick up and be like, you're almost dead, and next turn you're dead.
Yeah.
In Standard right now, you're going to be stretching for cards, but I do think it's playable, and I do think it has a chance to be good. The cards you still could be playing. Treasure Map is where you start.
I mean, this is where your Soul Diviner goes because you're probably going to be playing a lot of Planeswalkers.
Absolutely,
you're going to be playing Karns. You're probably going to be playing both Karns. You're probably going to be playing Ugin, and a lot of random. Maybe a lot of random artifacts, but there's there are artifacts that you could play that you could main deck that aren't embarrassing. That maybe not everyone is playing, but are still effective in the format.
The other thing I think is interesting about this card, and again, this is a crazy board state if that's happening, but you could play your Karn the Great Creator in this deck, and then because of the line of text that Tezzeret has, play your Karn. If you have Tezzeret in play your Karn, tick it down to go search for an artifact out of your sideboard, and then play it for free.
Yeah,
because so you don't have to have a bunch of extra mana to do that. I don't think there's an artifact payoff. God Pharaoh statue though.
Potentially.
Is a potential one. A card it showed itself unlimited to be more than playable, and I think that's interesting. So I think you got to watch the core set because then everything will get real small for a little bit, and that'll be tougher. But you just have to watch the artifacts. As long as this card is legal and standard, you've got to watch artifacts because that +1 is so powerful that it could kill you in 2 turns.
Yep.
And you have to respect it. So I wanted to build Brawl with it. It didn't even seem interesting because it seemed like you either don't win or you pretty much immediately win. So neat. That's our gold cards. Morgan, we did it.
We did in fact do it. We're on the home stretch now. But I mean, that's where we have a lot of our power. There are not any common gold cards. Everything is uncommon and above. And a lot of it's going to be a lot of stuff that's some of the best cards coming out of the format. Really going to be molding standard, potentially even modern when we're talking about it. So a lot of fun stuff in the multicolor section of War of the Spark.
Yeah, just a couple of people have written about this already, but like it's been crazy to watch like pre-order prices and things, how they've shifted.
Yeah,
because like the cards we saw originally, and then like we started seeing the power level of the set, and everyone's kind of going, wait, I don't know what to do, and that's why like you can buy Tamiyo's for $3 right now. That literally might be a format defining card for a tier 1 deck, right? Like just like a card that's and like sure the new Chandra, which is probably one of the better Chandras they've printed. You know, it's right there with at least Power Master, if not it's not probably Torch Defiance level, but it's very good. Yeah, it's a $2 card. Sorin was a $2 card. Like, how do you evaluate these things at rare when all these other cards are insane? Like it's crazy. So, moving to colorless, we start with who I already referred to, Karn the Great Creator. Karn the Great Creator is actually starring in the new Wizard of Oz movie. That's the next plane he's created. He's crafted Oz. So, 4 generic for a 5 loyalty planeswalker, legendary planeswalker Karn. Static ability is activated abilities or artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated. +1, until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness, each equal to its converted mana cost. -2, you may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in exile, reveal that card, and put it into your hand.
This card is cool.
Yeah,
first of all, cool. It's already getting play in Modern.
Modern and Legacy.
Because you can lock your opponents out of the game because you have Mycosynth Lattice, and that means all their lands are artifacts and can no longer be activated.
Can't beat that weird. So that's weird. And you don't have to play Mycosynth Lattice in your deck because this goes
in your sideboard. And I really like how it actually works with the other Karn, right? Because you can get it from exile. So if you have them exiled with silver counters on them, you can just go grab them.
Just go get them, yeah.
I really do. Like what this is doing, it does animate your artifacts as well. So, this is why we're saying it works well with Tezzeret, because this is a way that you can, have a bunch of artifacts that are kind of dirtly, but then you animate this one, and then suddenly it's,
go
effective
find the
for a turn.
It's like your Sorcerer's Spyglass, but also like, just hit you for, hey, my Godfro statue now attacks you for 6.
It's 6/6, right?
Fun fact with Mycosynth Lattice, it does also Stone Rain. You just take up and destroy lands.
Yeah, 100%. So there's a lot of good things about this Karn. It is definitely something that for like the purposes of standard, it may be a little bit narrow, but you can feel its impacts in older formats.
Again, like you just have to pay attention. As long as it's in standard, just like Tezzeret, you've got to pay attention to the artifacts there. Coming off hot off the heels of Kaladesh, which I think design wise has been viewed as some mistakes with some cards. You may not see an artifact based set because they're hard to rein in the power. They just are. But if we get enough artifacts in standard, this is a card to remember. But yeah, I think I agree. In older formats, it's going to do more work. There's a number of decks it randomly has a lot of game against, including like War Prison, which was, despite not doing super well, was a pretty highly represented deck at the Mythic Championship. So I think it's cool. I really like the art for this Karn.
Yeah,
it's been my Twitter handle for a little while.
Yes, so for sure.
I do like it.
So this does bring up kind of an interesting discussion. And maybe we have this later, closer to rotation, when probably we know more about it. But for Arena, it's been long rumored that there's going to be a sort of extended, Arena format. Something that incorporates more sets and allows you to still use your rotating cards in some sort of effective manner. And one has to ask how far back that goes. A lot of people say it's going to go all the way back to what's already been built into Arena, which I believe is Kaladesh.
Kaladesh, yes.
That's scary, I think, with this card, right?
I mean, yeah.
I think, like, when you look at everything in this set, it's pretty heavily hinting to either the future having a pretty artifact-centric set, or it being for this, theoretical format that exists. Now, there's no way they create this format and not have a ban list.
Yeah, for sure. Here's the thing. I trying to think of like artifacts you could get from Kaladesh with this, like, unless like you're making like a Paradox Engine deck, like, which it could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe you put your 4th Aether, your like, Heart or Marvel, whatever it is. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't think this card necessarily, because that's like saying like Tezzeret means that they're going to have an artifact centric deck. No, like that's just Tezzeret, and I think that's just Karn here too.
Sure.
Karn's abilities are like, if you look at his active abilities of other artifacts, like you're talking about like Null Rod and some of the legacy stuff with him. His +1 is a callback to his original card, Karn Silver Golem, which was one of his abilities. You know, like, and -2, this whole concept of the Great Creator, like he created Mirrodin, he creates all these things. So I don't know that. I think flavorfully the card, this is one of the planeswalkers that really does tell a story about its planeswalker, and I don't think that necessarily means there will be an artifact heavy set.
Right.
I think it's just like they wanted to do this.
Sure,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I think some cards are just also just plans for older sets. I don't mean it doesn't mean it couldn't be in there for Kaladesh, you know, maybe, and it gets played there. But I don't think any card being designed right now is being designed for a hypothetical extended format in Arena.
Yeah, but it's hypothetical to us. I don't think it's hypothetical for
you. It's still like, how do you design for that?
I mean, you
like, in addition to all your playtesting, who we already know they have limited hours to do that. They have been able to devote time to playtest to a format that literally doesn't exist.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't say playtest. But I think they have to be. Don't have to be. I would hope they would be aware of this thing on the horizon.
You would think so, but then like you also remember, how do they test these things? You know, they tested Modern by throwing it at a Pro Tour. They tested the London Mulligan by throwing it at a Pro Tour. You know, they don't necessarily have the time or resources to test those things, even when the ideas are in their heads. So
I agree.
I get what you're saying. I don't say I see it. I don't think we'll have another artifact centric block or a set while this card is legal. That would surprise me.
Gotcha.
So, next up.
Next up is Ugin, the Ineffable. 6 generic for a legendary planeswalker, Ugin.
Trust me, I've tried.
He starts with 4 loyalty. And the generic, not the generic, but the stack ability is colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. And it has 2 abilities. It's a +1. Exile the top card of your library face down, and look at it. It makes you look at it. Look at it.
Look at me.
Create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token. When that token leaves the battlefield, put that card in your hand. It obviously is supposed to like be manifest.
It's manifest. Yes.
It's manifest without manifest, because they want you to be able to draw the card. But that's such a weird way to like put it. Like, you're just like, you look at it, you exile it face down, you put it else somewhere, and then you put a token down.
Okay, so I want to point this out. So I had an opponent play this card against me at the pre-release.
In Arena. Okay. Yeah.
No, because you were there for that, and that person had never played with Manifest.
Yeah.
So like they were really like slow to, because like for me, and I think for anybody who's played with Morph for Manifest, you would just take that card and put it down on your battlefield, and that's your 2/2. Yeah, because you're used to that. But you're right. The format of this card, that's definitely not what you're doing.
No, you exile it face down, and then you put a token.
So like I was literally confused as to why because he was moving through the motions of it very slowly, and I was like, okay. And then like I asked him, I was like, so you ever played with more for Manifest before? And he was like, oh no, I don't know what those are. And I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense then actually. This is one of those cards where you talk about like complexity creep. For those of this is just Manifest. It's whatever.
Right.
Like watching a person who had never done that before just be like, okay, so I do this. I was like, okay, yeah, this probably would be confusing. Maybe that's why some of these planeswalkers show up in Mythic most of the time.
And see, like even in Arena, it doesn't represent it in that way because it makes it look like Manifest.
There are spirit does it really make it look like Manifest?
Yes, because
you're right, it does.
Because the token is on top of the card.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and even like how the flow of the mechanics of this card, it does look a little bit different.
That's so funny. Oh man.
So, and then it has a -3 ability, which is destroy target permanent that's up to
it's one or more colors.
This card's good.
Yeah, I think this card's pretty good. It's ticking down at 6 mana, going to one loyalty is a little tough because it's pretty squishy, and especially with a lot of the cards we have in War. But its tick up is so powerful.
Just the sheer fact that it gives colors that normally cannot deal with enchantments or artifacts effectively, a way to do that is really good. Like Grixis, like this is really good in that deck. Like cool, nice enchantment. It's gone now. And just being able to pretty much kill anything. I guess the artifacts for the most part don't have color. You can get the Mizium tank though. Can destroy that bad boy.
Silent Submarine. Man.
You're done. Get out of here.
Bolas Citadel.
Also done.
Please
get
don't destroy Bolas Citadel. I need it.
But
I need you to lose 10 life.
Specifically enchantment. Specifically something like an unflipped search for Incantor or something like that. It's something that you need. Or hey. A reclamation. Hey, sometimes you need to deal with those if you're playing Grixis, and it's like
I think of like how many times Argyle's Bloodfast has been like a mirror breaker, and then like you're just like, oh no, I'm playing this card that also destroys your Argyle's Bloodfast. So
yes,
good.
So that's why like I know I was watching Jim Davis today, and I don't know if it was Jim Davis or someone else who was streaming with a deck that they were playing Ugin in their Grixis deck. I know that Misplaced Ginger, who's a prominent sort of a Twitter personality and streamer, was playing Green Black with Ugin instead of Liliana, just being like this card just does more. They're probably close, but it's the difference is minute.
Yeah.
And I think like the tick down is really, the tick up obviously it's so annoying. It's very annoying to play against this card. Just if you haven't had the experience,
go to their hand.
It's the worst because you're just like, oh cool, it's we have the history, we know what Manifest is, and like you were just happy to like kill it and then it dies and it goes to, but they draw it and you're just like, I don't want you to do that.
Please don't.
So
and there's no way around it really. So
yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer to just be like, oh, I need to wrath the board. So cool. I wrath the board. You draw 3 cards. Great. Awesome. I don't want this anymore.
Do you think this could see some play in just like modern Tron? It being only 6 and the ability to kill like Blood Moons.
I can see people trying it. I don't see there's no reason. I don't think there's a reason not to try it. It's certainly, not like. It's not like Ugin's Eye.
Well, no, but I think like in games, especially like if they were able to like get rid of one of your Tron lands, for example, like permanently or Surgical Squid or whatever, this lets you cast it and then all of a sudden makes other endgame finishers a realistic goal. Like you can do that now. So I think it's possible. Maybe not, but it's possible.
Yeah, I can see people trying it. I think like that it's an interesting card that has some pretty effective lines of text, and it's worth like giving it a shot. If you tell Tron that I'm going to give you a Planeswalker that just allows you to draw cards theoretically,
right?
Like that could be pretty tempting.
All right, moving on to artifacts. I think we're only talking about one. We could again. We've already mentioned God Pharaoh statue, which could see play. But Firemind Vessel wanted to mention for generic for an artifact. Enters the battlefield tapped. Add 2 mana of different colors. Pretty much every time we've had a 4-mana rock in the format. Most recently, Hedron Archive.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that could turn into 2 cards. But,
yeah.
The ability to ramp here and adding colors, like 2 different colors. This is legitimate fixing. So if you're ramping into a deck that's playing a lot of Planeswalkers or some of these like large multicolored spells, Firemind's Vessel is pretty sweet as a way to do that. I think in a format without like Wilderness Reclamation, it would have already been people would have been more excited about this card because Reclamation's really taken the wind out of the sails of other like people were playing Circuitous Route before. No, that's not. Why would you do that?
There's no reason to.
So. But I still think this card is a pretty sweet option, especially just for fixing.
Yeah, 100%.
And like I said, mentioning God Pharaoh statue, it's 6 mana legendary artifact. Spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast, and at the beginning of end step, each opponent loses 1 life. If you can get this into play fast enough and doing enough other things, it could certainly tax your opponent out of the game.
Yeah.
So we talk about these artifact decks. That is one of the ones to at least consider.
Mm-hmm.
We're at lands, Morgan.
In the home stretch. We're going to talk about, just like one of the cards you look at and you're just like, wow, they printed that.
Yeah, like this is a thing
on a
now.
card. On a land. Just like, wow. It doesn't even come into play tapped? Really? Oh, okay. So we're talking about Blast Zone. So Blast Zone is a land. It says Blaststone enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it. It has you can tap it for a generic, or you can tap it for a colorless. Excuse me, and then you can pay XX and tap it and put X charge counters on Blaststone. Then you can pay 3, tap it, and sacrifice it. And it says destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Blaststone. That is engineered explosives.
Yeah, that's really good. So is the blast zone where you sit to get wet from the whales?
Yeah, no, that's the splash zone.
Oh, so close.
And also the front 2 rows of the Gallagher show is also that's the splat zone.
Splat zone. I thought that was when you were sitting close to the Nickelodeon stage. So
that's the GAC zone.
Wow. Yeah, I think this card is obviously powerful. Having played with a little bit of playing, one of the first decks I was trying out was a version of red black mid range / control because I can't help myself.
I can't stop.
And I got to destroy some Sorcerer's Cantas. I got to destroy multiple Wilderness Reclamations with it, which, yeah, my black red deck shouldn't have been able to do that. So,
nope.
Yeah, this has felt as powerful as you might think.
Yeah, it's also good in Simic as well. It's something that is dirty with Reclamation because you can charge it and then just like tap it and sacrifice it.
So good against the aggressive decks too. Like
yeah.
If they have a draw that's like putting them on a lot. Oh, look, it's a lot of 2-drops you have there. It'd be a shame if somebody.
It'd be a shame if they all got caught up in an explosion of some persuasion. But yeah, this card's good. It's probably going to be playable in modern and maybe older formats. If you want to talk about a card that Tron may be interested in, I think it's this one. I have a lot of excessive mana that I can charge this up real quick. And yeah,
it's pretty good.
You can't counter it. Like, it's just, I guess you can repudiate it because it's an activation ability. There you go. We figured it out.
Next up is Emergence Zone. This is land that taps for a colorless or pay 1, sacrifice it. You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash. This, I think, is an interesting card for me because, now granted, we have Little Teferi, so maybe this won't see as much play, but the ability to threaten whatever you're doing at instant speed is pretty interesting to me. I don't know what deck necessarily wants it, but I could see decks that are running Wrath effects that have slots for colors. This might be where you're looking, like the card you might want.
Yeah.
So, I think if it sees play, it's probably pretty corner case, but I think it's powerful. I think it's a powerful effect attached to just a random land. Mm-hmm. And another land that has like a upside that you can use that doesn't come into play tapped.
That's true. So. I mean, like, with some of these lands, it's kind of important to remember that we do have Crucible for its worlds.
Also
that's
true.
Very legal in this format. So I'm not saying like we have enough to make like a lands dedicated deck or anything like that.
It's a Karn land deck,
but it is like something to take note of that we have a lot of these fairly good utility lands that you can just be able to replay and continue to use. Right. And create value from. So keep an eye on it. Next up, we have Interplanar Beacon, which is a land. It says whenever you cast a Planeswalker spell, you gain a life. And it has tap, add a colorless. And it has 1 generic and tap. Add 2 mana of different colors. Spend this mana only to cast Planeswalker spells. So this is your Planeswalker. This is your Super Friends fixing land.
I like the way that they've worded this. Because this is the same wording that's on Firemind Vessel. They really wanted to show the concept of the guilds working together.
Yeah.
So by forcing you to make 2 different colors, like, no, you make a guild, you do it. But the nice thing is, like, this lets you color fix your planeswalkers and also lets you still cast your hybrid ones.
Yeah.
So it's just awkward with the double ones, like double blue, double whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, if you want your Super Friends deck, you'll take the life gain triggers off of this. You'll enjoy the fixing. There you go. So solid card. Next up is Karn's Bastion. This is a land. Tapped, add a colorless mana to mana pool, pay 4, tap it, proliferate.
That's good.
Yeah, that is a line. So, okay, just immediately, every Commander player ever is like, oh, well, I'll take one of these. Especially exactly. If you're if you're an Atraxa player, you have like, yes, my time has come.
Yeah, please.
And the foils of this card have caught up accordingly. We had a friend pull one. I was like, oh man, that's sweet. But I think in the right deck, this land just hangs out, and all of a sudden here's what I want to tell you: in the right deck, this is a Gavany Township.
Yeah, 100%,
and that's kind of exciting. And again, if you're playing the Super Friends deck, this is pretty. If you've got the fact that you could play this, even like think of like Teferi, right? Mm-hmm. This lets you cheat an extra turn to an ultimate. That's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. So I think you're gonna, again, I don't know how many copies of this you could run in a lot of decks, but that one copy I think could do a lot of work depending on what your deck is trying to do.
Yeah.
So
I like it. And then lastly, we have a mobilized district, which of course is a land. You can tap it and add a colorless, and it says pay 4. Mobilized district becomes a 3/3 citizen creature with vigilance until end of turn. It's still a land. This ability costs 1 less to activate if you for each legendary creature and planeswalker you control. So creature lands, creature lands are always very good for the most part. This one's expensive. You can obviously make it cheaper and potentially free, which is kind of compelling. I don't know how worth it necessarily is. We obviously have a lot of things that can reduce its cost, but I don't know. It's tough, but sometimes it can still just be effective. Like they're always just so annoying for the control decks, the Wrath decks that like just want to clear your board, keep from taking damage. This isn't. It doesn't feel as free as something like a Mutavault or a Mishra's Workshop, or even like the actual like dual colored creature lands or something like that. But if you're potentially playing a monocolored deck, maybe this is something that you could look into. Maybe there's a deck that does have a bunch of those like legendary payoffs, and maybe this is something that you could use to do with that. But I don't know. It's just tough.
Again, these colorless lands are all interesting to me because none of them have the kind of drawbacks you're used to seeing. So it's really going to be up to you to decide what goes into what deck.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about this is it does have vigilance.
Yeah, having vigilance
and
is a big
bigger.
deal.
It's a 3/3.
And having 3/3 is a big deal as well. I think when you go back to the last time we had creature lands in play, which was Gatewatch, it was Return to Zendikar, Battle for Zendikar.
Yeah,
every single one of them saw play.
Yep.
Every single one, even the 3/3 hexproof one saw it. Like, when you look at that as your floor, then I think this card is fine because if this card, the difference between this costing 3 to activate and 4 is massive, and that you have 1 planeswalker, 1 random legend. Mm-hmm. In the way that standard is currently presented, that's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of decks that and now granted, some of the decks that want this card are probably going to be 3 colors, which makes it tougher.
Yeah.
But again, when you find the right balance, it's going to be there. So no, it's not Mutavault. You're not going to play 4 of these more than likely, but you have to respect it because they're just and even some of the removal spell we're playing. You've just got to be careful. You got to make sure you can interact with the land.
There are definitely some things that say non-land.
And again, I mentioned Little Teferi. This with Little Teferi, you get to attack with impunity.
Yeah,
go ahead. Point a removal spell at it. You can't.
You can't.
So
denied.
I think that's interesting. I think it's a good card.
Yeah. And that's it. That's all of War of the Spark. We got some basic lands left, so congratulations on getting those.
Some sweet art in these War of the Spark ones. We've got Rocket Ship Mountains, which are pretty cool.
Yeah, Rocket Ship Mountains.
Again, I know they're towers that have water coming out of them, but they look like rockets taking off.
They do look like the space program.
The Bolas' Citadel swamp is gorgeous.
Yeah, I like all of because there's a panorama of all the basics, and I love all the panorama lands. I'm going to see if I can nab some foils, a couple of foils. That's for cool. Maybe for some modern decks or something like that. But I think they look very, very nice.
They look sweet. They show multiple of them show the Elder spell at work. Like you actually see like Planeswalker sparks leaving and like moving around. It is very cool. And like there's very guild centric ones too. There's the Interplanar beacon here on this mountain. The Azorius sort of Senate look here for Island, where you can see the Azorius guild symbol. I think those are sweet. These are nice touches. And I'm sorry, what you're actually seeing there is the Azorius Senate, but that's where the Golden Sun is. That's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
So like. The Immortal Sun, not the God Sun, Mr. Immortal Sun. So I think it's pretty cool. I wonder here, and you can still see Vidu-Ghazi in one of the forests. Like that is, I think that's really sweet. So yeah, these are awesome, and they're great. So I collected a lot of Dominaria lands. I'll be collecting a lot of War lands as well for draft and pauper decks.
Yeah, they're pretty good, pretty good,
pretty good. So what do you think? We looked at a lot of cards, more cards I think that we've looked at for a set in a long time.
I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of powerful things going on in War of the Spark, and it's already shaking up standard, which is really, really exciting. It feels like, some of the decks that were, really the kings of the format have kind of fallen away. And maybe there's a little bit more room for growth and expansion and seeing what the format does. I am worried that we're now reaching a tipping point with Nexus of Fate.
It's very possible.
Where they're going to have to put the kibosh on it and be like, okay, we're going to this isn't creating positive magic. Where we've pushed it to its maximum, and when we got to cut it out of the format, and I think that's fine. But I think it'll be really telling what Richmond brings.
Agreed.
I think everyone already knows how good the Simic deck is. I don't think people are sleeping on it, and if that's a lot of what we see in Richmond, then I would expect a response of some persuasion. It's not that I don't enjoy seeing, proxy, cards as basic lands of the, of like swamps or mountains in these Simic decks standing in for Nexuses because there's not a non-foil version. And then the games will be a bore to observe and watch, because Nexus is only fun if you're playing it, not if you're playing against it, and not if you're watching it. So I that's my only worry. Everything else, I think it looks pretty interesting, and we're going to get a lot of cards that we just talked about that are going to be playable. And maybe they don't see the spotlight, but it's going to get a lot of people motivated to try and brew and try to figure things out. And I genuinely think Arena helps with that. Arena helps with people trying new weird things and then talking about it on Twitter, you know what I mean? Or posting about it in Reddit. And I think that'll be fun to see, because that's how, we got the Bolus Citadel deck.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't believe when I saw that.
When I saw it, I was like, I have to try this. I have to try to do this because this looks like fun. I'm not going to, I hadn't reached Mythic yet, so I was like, I'm not going to play ranked with this, but I want to try this. And that's kind of what a lot of the, we're getting to a point in time where we have such a big standard and you don't expect sets to have that much of an impact when they come out.
This looks like it might really alter standard.
Yeah, and which is
exciting.
Crazy. And it doesn't look like it's going to be bad, barring Nexus of Fate. We'll kind of wait to see what happens, but I think it's going to be, I think Richmond is going to be a fun tournament to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I really wish I could be there.
Yeah.
I love going to new standard formats, and there's I will say you mentioned Arena already and the ability to play decks, but that was awesome to me. I bought the 50 packs, which, Wizards, you got me.
Yeah. And
the ability to sit down Thursday and just be like, I'm going to build what I want. I'm going to have these wild cards. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I know I've been pretty negative. I was negative about certain aspects of Arena in the past, and there's still some things to clean up.
It's not perfect,
but man, it really, I haven't turned on. I haven't. Magic Arena for me is probably 6 or 7 updates out at this point, and there was a cube. There were 2 cubes.
Magic Online. You said Arena, but Magic Online.
Yeah, you're right. Magic Online. I forgot the name of it.
It exists.
I have Phoenix there. I haven't played it. It's. For me, especially with how, right now I'm essentially working what's close to 2 jobs right now, just because something I'm doing extra. Don't have a lot of time, and the ability to sit down and play a game, play a match, and just walk away for a little bit is great. And to be able to play with new standard like that so quickly,
yeah,
the accessibility to it is great. And then, like I said, I can play more cards and turn around and play them in paper because I want to try them there. We used to do some testing that wasn't necessarily on Magic Online. I won't say what the program was. You can it's probably still working. I don't know. And some people use things like those, or Maka Mice, or
sure,
Flex Mage. Whatever
floats your boat.
But I think one of the big allure to that was I don't want to buy these things until I know what I've done with them. And right. Arena now says, okay, I don't really have to spend money to try this because I've put my time in. and then I can turn around and maybe go do it in paper. And I know there's been some data points on Twitter pointed to this that like Arena really is pushing people towards
paper,
the paper game, I mean, and I don't think I would have ever predicted that.
Yeah, it's definitely like a weird thing that. You look at it on paper as presented. It's like, oh well, this is gonna like kill paper Magic, but it's like no, people are actually wanting to play paper Magic because they're getting like an experience on Arena, and it's kind of wild. It's kind of the opposite of what a lot of people thought was going to happen. But yeah, they had their earnings call basically, and Arena has been very successful for Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. So if you were hoping that this was going to be a flash in the pan, I don't think that is going to be the case.
And no, I mean, like just the amount of tournaments they're going to be able to provide now. Again, there's still things I got to hammer out. There's still things on. I swear to God, Wizards, please, 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 let me have priority at the end of my turn when an opponent casts a spell. Like, please, just fix it, make it happen. But anyways, but I think like War, we've had a couple sets come out here, but War feels like. I don't know. War sort of feels like a homecoming for the game in a lot of ways. Just a massive event that we haven't seen in a while. We got a book. We got the set on Arena. We've got all these things coming together, and like I think that even the Japanese art like brings that together a little bit. Like this is supposed to be sort of a coming out moment for Magic. This whole last 6 months really has been, and. Despite frustrations with Wizards over a number of things, despite some of the stuff I even think about some of the things in this set, they've stuck the landing for the most part. Mm-hmm. And as a fan of Magic and a person who wants to see Magic grow consistently, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it's just so weird that it's, we have this coming out at the same time as, Avengers Endgame, as the same time that like Game of Thrones is ending. So it's just like we're getting a large culmination of like storylines that have taken multiple years to come to fruition, and it's just like they're all varying levels of successful, and it's just been like to be a fan of all of those things and like this all be happening at the same time is very weird.
That is an interesting somewhat to say, but it is really weird, and I think we've kind of I more sort of moved away from the point there, but I think going to your point that it is weird. It is a weird feeling to just be like. I think I've spent the last month speculating on a lot of things that I've really enjoyed about, and now I have answers to at least 2 of them. So
yeah,
it's weird,
and it's exciting for something like the MCU or for Magic because we are getting rid of like this big bad, and now we get to have new storylines, and that's exciting. That's exciting for me, for being familiar with like, it's already been, Mark Rose already said like, hey, we have plans for Garrick. Like, I want to know what those plans are. We're always on Koth watch. So when we go back to New Phyrexia, like, come on, like, I know we're going to a new plane, but what are we doing next? Like, come on.
Where's Koth? Give us maybe he's Modern Horizons. Maybe that's where we're going.
Oh man. Oh, please. New modern playable Koth. To go along with already current modern playable Koth. I guess less so now that like Chandra kind of stole his thunder and modern a little bit.
In so many ways.
Yeah.
Koth's like, I have 1 card. Chandra has 53.
I'm like, come on.
When's it going to be my time? No, I agree with you on that. And and we could, War might be the thing that, especially with what Endgame has done this last week, maybe that's what finally pushes over the edge for us getting that actual Magic movie they've been working on. Because I think some of the worry had to be proof of concept, especially I think one of the reasons, again, we're way away from it, but one of the reasons we stopped hearing about the Magic movie is because of how bad Warcraft did.
Yeah, it did real bad.
Because Warcraft is probably what Magic is going to look like, literally visibly look like. And I think like now that you see like, okay, if you do it the right way, if you do it the Marvel way, you can do something like this and it not fall flat on its face. So I'm not saying that Wizards can become the MCU, but I'm saying that like compare the timelines and now you have some proof of concept for these things.
I honestly wish that it wouldn't be live action. I honestly wish it would be animated with the success that
I agree with that, but that's why I said Warcraft, because Warcraft is what it feels like Magic was going to look like.
Right. And like I think like you go into that sort of like territory, you're asking for trouble. But take a look at something like the masterpiece that was like Spider-Man in Into the Spider-Verse, where they're aping something. They're aping comics to create this animation style. Well, I mean, Magic is full of art, and it may not be art that is in motion, but like it's rich in that sort of style, and like there's got to be something there. There's got to be something that you can take some of the artistic influences and styles that we've seen and put that into motion and make it look good. And I think like if you can nail that down, then there's a storyline that can be told within the hour, within a movie's timing, and that can be effective. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think they could do something fairly interesting artistically.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Maybe make it a little more. Again, they're not going to start with War of the Spark. Like,
no.
But I think you just when you look at Endgame and you see what the MCU was able to do with their characters and do all these things, like it's there for Magic. Mm-hmm. It really is. So we should probably put a little end on this one here, but
yeah, probably. So that was our lovely War of the Spark-a-Palooza Part 2, I guess. And there's
Part-a-Palooza.
There's definitely a lot of cards and a lot of implications for what the future of our favorite formats are going to be, and we'll keep you updated on what's going on with those when we get some more tournaments over the weekend. And of course, we'll be talking about the MC that happened last weekend next week. But until then, we will say adieu. I want to thank you all for listening. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so via multiple different methods. We have a Twitter. It's Your End Step. We also have a facebook.com/@YourEndStep, and email @YourEndStep@gmail.com. If you're listening to us via your podcast app that allows you to leave us a rating or a review, we would really appreciate it. I recently looked it up, and we're a 5-star podcast, Mike. I don't know if you know that.
Man, wait, what's the highest amount of stars?
5. It's 5 out of 5.
What?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Now I know.
Do you hear that, large advertisers?
I know I'm tempting fate by saying that to
review bombed
to
now.
just get someone just to slap that nasty 1-star on there and be like, "Yo, look at this. Now you're a 4.5 star. Eat it." But I'm pretty proud. I'm pretty proud of that, and thank you to everyone who has gone and reviewed us on the Apple Podcast app. It does help with getting viewers and everything like that, so we do appreciate it. And if you're listening to us via Legitimacy, thank you for picking up the show. Be sure to check out some of the other articles they have on that website, and of course, checking out their web store. Also want to give a quick thank you to our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. You can find out more information about Comic Town by visiting Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook or worldofcomictown.com. And last but not least, of course, we want to thank our patrons. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/@YourEndStep. And again, we're going to be doing a couple of giveaways, and of course, Mike's Book Nook. So be sure to join to get that lovely content. But that's going to be everything for this week. We will catch you next time, and you have a great one. Bye.